Hello, and welcome to the Graveyard Media Podcast for the week of October 23rd, 2017. This is episode 15, right? Yeah, I think
Yes.
we've just been over that. Okay. I'm your host, Saine Grey. With me is co-host Dalsson and Thel.
It's me. I've got a new shirt. It's hard to see, but I love it.
The only reason that I look this good is because I shaved immediately before the podcast.
Okay.
As you just start drinking a liter of Coke.
It was kind of a tough week for me finishing that fucking video. I think I may have shared it with Dalsson, but Sane, I don't think you saw the timeline for my video. Would you like it?
Sure.
Okie dokie. You guys
It's
can
a
get started
fucking
while I
mess.
go find that. Yeah, it's
Okay.
kind of a mess.
So this week we're going to be talking about the games and movies we've checked out this week, and then we'll move into some news.
Yep.
Probably
Good
won't
idea.
talk about that much this week in terms of games and movies because I have
There's not
seen
that much.
nothing.
Yeah, same.
It's been a really busy week for me, so not much has happened. I guess we'll see.
Yeah,
We never know.
we'll never know. But
All right, let's leave the thing open.
So
how-
who wants
Dalsson,
to start
how
with their
about
very
you
little?
start this time?
I don't know. I think I started last time. You should start, though.
No.
Well, why
Okay.
don't I start?
Okay.
Alright.
I'll start
Go
with my
ahead.
very little this week, and then you guys can decide what you want to do next.
All right.
So this week, I've pretty much exclusively played Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Okay.
I don't know
The
what got me back
Legend
into it.
of Zegend.
The Legend of
Breath of
Zegend.
the West.
Legend of Zelda.
Legend of Zegend.
Breath.
Legend of
Breath of the West.
That is a very long title. I don't even remember why I suddenly had the desire to get back into it. And I've been putting a lot of hours into it this week. Probably not I don't think I've picked it up to this extent since I first got it, basically. I don't know. This weekend alone I've done 3 dungeons, a significant amount of other story content. I've upgraded my armor 2 or 3 levels each. I don't know. I've been doing all sorts of crazy stuff. No other game have I been that motivated to run around and find lizards.
Yeah. In Skyrim, it's oh, you have to go find these alchemy
I
ingredients.
don't
You know,
even
fuck that.
in Skyrim. I straight up don't
Even
go out of
bother.
my way for anything. The only
Mhm.
reason I do any alchemy at all in Skyrim is because eventually your bag gets full of bullshit and you start cramming stuff together as best as possible.
Yeah, and then you never
um,
use the potions. So what's the point?
Yeah, well then I just I don't know. I use some of the potions, but I don't know. I don't know how, but Zelda has maybe I don't know. Zelda was able to take systems straight from Skyrim that I just didn't like as much in Skyrim and just made it better. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the more I don't know, because I hesitate to say that Breath of the Wild made things more simple, because it did, but at the same time that was something that annoyed me when I was playing it in Skyrim, that they simplified a lot of systems. It's it's almost as if it's almost as if Skyrim simplified things that I didn't want them to simplify, and Zelda simplified stuff that I did want them to simplify.
Yeah.
There are a few things that are kind of annoying in Zelda, but I think as you go on, your little bugbears and gripes with it kind of go away as you increase in strength and develop your
Yeah.
character more. In the very beginning of the game, climbing is pretty slow. I actually didn't mind it that much because I just was kind of at awe with the ability to kind of climb anything. But now at this point, I have so much stamina I can just jump up walls.
Yeah.
There's a lot of times where I'll look at a wall and go, yeah, I can climb that no easy, and I'll just straight go up it. And then maybe on the last jump or two, I might have to like ration out my jumps, but it's gotten to the point where I just go straight up walls now.
I like that at the end of a climb, like no, you can always jump as long as you have some stamina. So at the end of a climb, if you're just not high enough, you can just jump and maybe reach the top of the cliff.
Yeah,
or maybe
that's when
fall to your death.
that's when the last couple jumps kind of mean a lot. Yeah, well, luckily, and I didn't realize this until a little bit later on, but when you take a fall, like when you run out of stamina, you get a second of glider. So you can like save yourself from falling to your death if you glide right at the very like possible last moment.
Okay.
So it takes some practice, but you can get used to it. I don't know, like it's probably early to say this, but I think that this game is not only like my game of the year, it might be my favorite game of all time. Straight up.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was kind of thinking about this more lately, about what attracted to me to it. And if I kind of look in the past at what games I have spent a lot of time in, and enjoyed quite a bit, they're all games that give you a lot of freedom of exploration and like are less and less reliant on like linearity. So if I think about some of my favorite games, like I think about Resident Evil 2, one of my favorite games of all time. Not because it was necessarily like amazing. It was good at the time that it came out, but like it didn't age super perfectly. But that game has a lot going for it in terms of exploration. You start off kind of not knowing where anything is, and by the end of the game you've gone back and forth the police station several times. You've done all, like little weird, completely random, strange puzzles, but like in a way, like that game, there's the Castlevania Symphony of the Night is another one of my favorite games of all time. That's another game that is very much like allowing you to just explore. You can run around, and it was kind of the first to really codify the Metroidvania aspect of Castlevania, in that you're gated by like only by like what powers and abilities you have to get places.
Right. It's not like you have to beat a boss and then beating that boss will give you access to the new area.
Well,
yeah.
Other than,
in
like,
Castlevania it would, but
it would,
because they would. That's how you unlock powers in that game.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's not like you have to.
It's not like the boss is blocking the door to the next area with his body.
Or it's not like there is one corridor and the only thing that's stopping you is the enemies in that one corridor. Like you have to in Metroid or not Metroidvania. I was gonna say Metroidvania. In Castlevania Symphony of Night is really about learning the layout of the dungeon and exploring and finding interesting weird things and going wherever you kind of want to. Like, yes, that could mean that you're wasting a lot of time running around in a section you kind of shouldn't be in yet, but that's fine. Like, another one is Oblivion, which is in very similar ways, like, just you kind of can go anywhere. You can sort of do whatever you want. There are several
that
quest
one's
chains
like particularly unguided.
Yeah.
It's like
even more so than Skyrim, I would say.
Yeah, definitely.
Well,
I don't
Skyrim
know about.
has you...
I would say it's more guided than Morrowind, though.
Certainly.
But I thought that Oblivion struck a good balance of like giving you kind of, here's an objective, but go wherever. There's 6 towns, you can go to whichever town you want or whatever.
Where in Skyrim, it's like you go from point A to point B to point C to point D. In Oblivion, it's like, okay, you're at point A, make it to point E eventually.
Right. And although in the Skyrim series, I had to like intentionally get myself to not fast travel.
Yeah.
Partially because the way the mechanics are set up, but partially because it takes a lot of the interest out of exploration in that game.
Yeah.
Whereas in Breath of the Wild, I don't even feel that guilty fast traveling.
Yeah, I agree. I don't
because
know
I
why.
feel like I spend so much time, like, because I don't feel like. I feel like if I fast travel, I'm missing out on stuff. And I don't feel that way in like Skyrim and Oblivion as much. Like I feel like in Skyrim and Oblivion, I fast travel just because it's easier than walking, whereas in Zelda, I do it because I want to do something specific somewhere else.
Right.
And I can fast travel all over the place if I feel like it, but I don't feel the need to fast travel. And I don't feel guilty when I do decide to fast travel. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Well, and here's the thing, like in Skyrim, what I thought was really weird, and this is like different than Oblivion. Like in Skyrim, if I remember right, when you first started up Skyrim, you could fast travel to all the towns without having to like.
You can in Oblivion too.
No, you're
really?
thinking of Oblivion. In Skyrim, you could not fast travel to places that you haven't gone to yet.
Oh, okay. Weird.
Are you? No, I think you can.
I could.
I think you can go to the major cities.
I am almost certain you cannot, because I remember having to like go out of my way to force myself to go to Winterhold.
I remember. Excuse me. I remember in one you could and one you couldn't. I'm not exactly sure which is which.
Well, you definitely could not in Morrowind. They didn't have a fast travel system at all, other than you could go to a place.
Chat here says that you can use the carriages from city to city to go to any of the cities, but it's not quite fast travel. It's more like Morrowind.
Okay, so
but it also has fast travel. See, that is something that's kind of dumb to me. Like it has these systems in the game where you can travel between major cities and pay gold to do it. But why would you ever do that when you could just fast travel to places using the map for free?
Yeah.
Like why do they put that system in the game?
I guess
at all.
For right at the beginning, if you really want to go to Markarth.
Yeah, I guess.
I don't know. I know that the only reason I even remember Markarth at all is because that's the place you get married.
Mm-hmm.
So and that's like I think I went there, stumbled upon one quest when I was there, so I've done one quest at Markarth, and I don't think I've ever gone back. In all of the hours I've played Skyrim, I think I've been in Markarth for like 30 minutes. Oh, I added a mod that you could.
No, okay.
Yeah.
I added a mod that
added the king, baby.
It added a marryable follower that was a Khajiit, so.
I see.
That's actually, you make a very good point, Dalsson. I feel like there should definitely, if there isn't already, which there probably is, a mod that lets you play as the Duke Nukem race of characters.
Yeah, of course.
It just replaces the character model with just the.
I'm sure that it already exists, though.
So yeah, like I'm not one of those people who think back on like Half-Life or Half-Life 2 is one of my favorite games of all time. Sure, I recognize them as influential, but for me, like those weren't super. That wasn't very influential to me personally.
Right.
Games like Pokemon Red, another game that you like, one of my favorite games of all time. You can go everywhere.
Yeah.
You're gated by certain things. Like there's reasons why you can't go to certain places, but there is a significant amount of area that you can just decide what you want to do in that area.
Yeah.
Like, and a lot of it is gated just by how strong you are and your ability to get to other places in the first place. Like there are hard breaks where it's like there's a Snorlax in the way, but there's also places that you just don't want to go because you'll get your butt kicked. And I feel like Breath of the Wild is the first game to really capture that in 3D in a long time, other than to an extent Skyrim. But I feel like Breath of the Wild, well, not Skyrim, but the Elder Scrolls series. But, I think that
after
Breath of the Wild really crystallized what I liked about the Elder Scrolls series into something that's just fun. I don't know.
Yeah. So it like fucking raised the bar.
After what was it? After Morrowind, the Elder Scrolls series started doing this level scaling thing, where your level would just directly influence how strong the enemies were in the world. And then like Skyrim and Fallout 4 which I'm now counting Fallout as Elder Scrolls as well, because let's be real.
Well, Fallout 3 and 4 are Elder Scrolls games. The Fallout series is Fallout 1.
New
Okay,
Vegas
fair.
is notably
Tactics, and
still
New
Fallout,
Vegas.
though.
Yes. Yeah, Fallout 3 and 4 I'm counting as Elder Scrolls.
Yeah.
They all did this level scaling thing where the stronger your character gets, the stronger the enemies are. So it kind of makes the
Well,
RPG aspects
be
not
fair-
pointless, but
To be fair, Breath of the Wild does too, actually.
it does to an
Um,
extent. But-
Every blood moon, it'll respawn any characters you haven't killed, and then it'll replace one or two of them with higher level characters. So if you go back to starter zones,
Uh-huh.
you'll only be fighting moblins, sure, but one of those moblins is a white moblin and is gonna kick your ass, like,
Right,
if you're not careful. So
But that's based on time. That's the more blood moons happen. Whereas
no, it's still. I think it still is like, because
based
there's
on,
ones
like,
that I
what the
haven't
number of
killed in
shrines you
ages.
finished.
I know.
Or
I think it's
what's it
based on.
That's...
I'm not entirely sure what it's based on.
Ooh,
'Cause there's no levels in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, but I think it might. Well, there is health and stamina though,
Yeah.
so it might just be based on health.
It must be based on shrines completed.
No, I don't. Well, I mean maybe, but I don't. I think indirectly.
Hmm.
Either it's based on shrines or hearts. I feel like, you know what I mean.
Right. Yeah.
Alternatively, it could be based on armor that you have,
Mhm.
because I feel like the more I've upgraded some of my armor, the more I've needed it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas I don't know
Yeah,
if that is just coincidental and correlational, or if it's
Mhm.
like causal.
There's still
so...
sections of the game though, like where you can fight those giant cyclopses. Like you can just take off. You just jump off the starter cliff and go right to one of those giant cyclopses.
Oh
and they're
no,
gonna
sure.
kick your
No,
ass.
and that's the thing. Like,
Whereas-
I think that what Breath of the Wild was not afraid to do, that a lot of the past Elder Scrolls games was it was not afraid to give you enemies that will just outright kill you. And the only Bethesda game, man, I wish they had their own like developer name that was just for Fallout and Elder Scrolls, but
yeah.
Mhm.
like in any of those games, the only one that ever had a section of monsters that just outright killed you if you went that way was Fallout New Vegas with Deathclaws. Literally
Yeah.
the only one I can think
And
of.
Cazadors.
Yeah, in Cazadors.
Well, no, not even Cazadors, because like, I mean, I don't know.
You can avoid them.
That one's more
Yeah.
debatable, but I feel like Deathclaws, you cannot escape them
Yeah.
initially. So
Yeah.
like there are, and I think that in a way Breath of the Wild even does it better, because if you are 100% in control of, like, I don't know, to some extent, like if you are very good at fighting certain enemies, you can kill almost any enemy with whatever you have. The only problem is the durability system means that if you attack stronger enemies with weaker weapons, they break faster. I don't know if you've noticed this, but if you take a weapon that is scaled differently than the monster you're fighting, it will break faster, I've noticed. So like
does it? That's
I'm
interesting.
almost positive it works that way, because if you take a stronger weapon and use it on weaker enemies, it'll last forever. But if you take that same weapon and then use it to similar or higher level enemies, it'll break just as fast as some of the sticks you get in the beginning of the game.
Interesting. See, I didn't know that. I always just used shitty weapons on the low level enemies because I assumed that
Well, it's
they
because
all
you didn't
broke
want
at
to
the
waste
same
it,
rate.
right?
Yeah, I don't want to waste the strong ones.
Yeah.
But if the strong ones last for fucking ever,
And the only reason I've kind of noticed that was because at a certain point, I only had good weapons.
yeah,
At a certain point, I was only using Royal Claymores on Moblins because, like, that's all
you
I
had.
had. So, and maybe some of that's perception, because I have stuff that, like, I played the game for so long now that I have stuff that has improved durability. I mean, I don't know. Like, it's hard to say.
Right.
There are still some gripes I have about the durability system. I wish that it was easier to save things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for instance, I got the ancestral weapon you get from the Death Mountain area, the Goron City.
Right.
And because it
The
is
bigger knife.
because it is essentially a mining tool, I was using it for mining. Um, which I don't know, like it lasted longer than average mining tools, so I guess it was fine, and I could in a pinch use it as a weapon too, so I like it. But
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, even if you catch it before it completely breaks, um, there's no way to repair anything, so you still have to go. You like at that point, you might as well just break it and then buy a new one, which kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Like, I wish that maybe instead of spending the previous the weaker version of the same weapon and 10 flint and a diamond to replace the ancestral weapon, I wish it would have been like, if you still had the weapon, you could just use the 10 flint or something, right? And as long as you caught it at the right time and saved it, like, because there I still had it in my inventory. I was saving it to fix it, like, and I guess a little bit that's mitigated by fast travel, but I think that if it still takes at least some forethought to not break it, you know what I mean?
If it's like this, like most of the basic bitch ass weapons, I see why they don't want you to repair it, because you can just literally just kill something and get a new one. But if like those weapons you're talking about are supposed to be like ancient weapons passed down for hundreds of years, and it's like, oops, I broke it. Okay, well, just go ahead and make me a new one here. Make me a new one of this ancient, powerful artifact of your people that has never been touched in 100 years.
I always thought that was really weird. I feel like it would have made more sense for it to, like, break, but kind of like the Master Sword, where it broke, but you can't use it.
Yeah, the Master Sword, like, it loses its power. And
and in Master Sword's case, it has a cooldown, but I would have been fine if you could use the broken version of the weapon, right? Like, maybe it just always was at 10 power when it was broken, right? But it would never break further. It would have been nice if you could just take the broken version and then fix it, or something. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like the biggest, like, pockmark, I think, is on Breath of the Wild, especially for people who very first start out with the game, is I think that weapon durability turns a lot of people off.
Yeah, that's one of the things I've seen, like, complained about. Not necessarily in this game, but just in, like, games in general.
Right. Retrospectively, I like what the durability system did to me in Breath of the Wild, and that it forced me to use weapons that I wouldn't necessarily want or care about. At a certain point, it's like, okay, I've used spears, swords, great swords, and axes and whatever, so I basically know what all of the weapons do anyway. But I think that it's good that in the early games you kind of just used what you had, because that's what you had to do, and it forced you to be creative, where later on you don't have to be nearly as creative about what you're doing, like, other than like, oh, I know that I enjoy this weapon more, so I'll carry extra ones of that weapon. It's just stuff like that. At a certain point, it just gets like that.
That's the same thing. Like, people complained about the durability system in Fallout New Vegas. They didn't have it in Fallout 3 or 4, but I really enjoyed it because of exactly the reasons you're talking about. Like, oh no, my 10mm pistol is starting to break, and it's doing a really shitty damage, and I don't want it to break all the way, because then I'll just lose it.
I had more issues with how it worked in New Vegas, just because I didn't like that it degraded in quality over time as well.
Yeah.
I would have rathered it been more like Breath of the Wild, where it just broke, right?
Right.
Because I think that it creates scarcity, right? It makes you feel like there are a limited number of things. I feel like and you have to, like, save and collect things that you want. And I think that the reason why Breath of the Wild went so hard on that early on is just that they wanted you to feel as weak as possible in the very beginning of the game, so that at the end of the game you feel a lot stronger. Currently in Breath of the Wild, I have 16 weapon slots compared to the 5 I think you get in the beginning of the game.
You found me.
Like, so I feel like a lot of what I've done in the game has been rewarded. I feel like I've made a lot of progress without feeling like I was on a treadmill.
Right.
I don't know. Like, I think that Breath of the Wild has just done kind of almost everything right. There are some, and again, there are some hang-ups I have. Like, I wish there were more dungeons, just because I enjoyed the dungeons. I enjoy dungeons in general. Especially
well, the DLC is supposed to be adding stuff, like more dungeon-like content, so...
maybe. I mean, it would be nice. Right now, there's, like, arguably 6 dungeons, including the Divine Beasts. There's the 4 Divine Beasts, the Yiga clan area, and the Hyrule Castle, if you consider that a dungeon.
Yeah, I would count Hyrule Castle. I don't think I would count the Yiga clan.
It kind of was. I mean, it was a stealth dungeon, right? But
yeah.
I don't know. Like, you can kind of think of it that way if you want to. I don't know. Someone said that they didn't know about the enemy scaling. Yeah, I don't. That a lot of that is speculation. I don't know for a fact that stronger weapons last longer on weaker enemies. I don't know for a fact that how exactly they decide when to spawn moblins.
They definitely scale though.
But yeah, there is some form of scaling. They do get stronger somehow.
It was like I had to have put like 15 hours into it before I found a white moblin. I didn't even know that they existed.
Right.
And granted,
a lot of time it was like I was worried about black moblins at one point. Granted, now suddenly there's white ones and they're killing me even harder. So like,
I did find a white moblin at like one of the like dragon bone structures or something. So it was like it was an important area that I found it in.
Yeah.
But
I feel like
if I had gone there earlier, I wouldn't have had the white moblin.
So I think the reason why Breath of the Wild gets away with it where Skyrim doesn't is Breath of the Wild is more reinforced on the ends, right? The hardest enemies are in there from the very beginning of the game. So you have the potential to die against something that you in a place you should not be yet. Like, for instance, if you go too close to Central Hyrule too early on, you're gonna get murdered by Guardians. Eventually, Guardians aren't that big of a deal.
You can get the mirror shield or a guardian shield that'll just reflect.
Or guardian armor. At a certain point, you get armor that just resists guardian attacks, which makes it a lot easier to deal with them. Still, your crap will break on them harder than a lot of other like enemies, but like, I don't know.
Once you get the Master Sword, they just basically become
not really. Like, I still feel like guardian weapons are still more effective than the Master Sword, especially since I found that it inconsistently is stronger against Guardians. I don't know why, but sometimes it doesn't scale up, and I don't know why.
Weird.
But yeah, I don't know if that's maybe a just perception thing, but and then as like at the same time, not only do Guardian weapons do more damage against Guardians, but Guardian weapons also have higher potential damage. You can get ones that are like 70 and 80 damage compared to the Master Sword's cap of 60. So I don't know.
Yeah.
And I think it's been long enough that I don't mind talking about too many specifics, but I feel like, man, like, for someone who has not played this game, it is probably one of the best games ever made.
It is fantastic. For sure.
Spoilers, though, you do fight Ganon as Link.
No, well,
question mark.
Maybe Ganon, right? Like, that's the thing in this game, and this isn't a spoiler because it says in the trailer all over the place. But Ganon is just—he's not a person in this.
Yeah, he's
like an intelligent cloud. Is basically what Ganon is.
Yeah, pretty much. Which, like, that's still consistent with Zelda lore. Ganon takes different incarnations over each.
Right, and this one is the latest in the series chronologically, so it like they even said that Ganon has been reformed and come back to life so many times that at this point he's just given up on that and he's just a monster now. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, fair enough.
Like the
dragging me
Ganon,
back into this shit. Here we go.
the Ganon that everybody thinks of is either
He Return of
Gerudo,
Ganon. Yeah.
Gerudo Ganon, or the
Pigman
giant Pigman Ganon. Yeah.
Mm.
But like he can take any form he wants. He's just evil. That's all he is. He's an evil.
and like there are other
Yeah.
characters that were almost Ganon too, like that evil wizard Vasti or whatever. It was
Yeah,
basically
yeah.
Ganon also. Like,
Mhm.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. We've been talking about Breath of the Wild a lot, but it just captures what I like in a lot of games
It does.
way better than a lot of other games. Like,
Yeah.
and,
See,
and
like,
even like A Link to the Past was probably A Link to the Past and Link's Awakening were probably my favorite Zeldas up until this point. Not that I've played a lot of the 3D Zeldas. I know it's blasphemous, but I've never actually played Ocarina of Time, so it's hard for me to like judge against that because I know that a lot of people that is what Zelda is to them, whereas to me Zelda is Link's Awakening and A Link to the Past. So I don't know.
Mhm. You know, I really think that you should play. Everybody should play Ocarina of Time just one time in their life, you know?
Well, I planned to. I actually like this game has made me more interested in going back and playing other Zeldas that I haven't played more so than any other Zelda I've played. So
I mean,
and some of
I
it's
was
just
making
been like
a joke, but
No, yeah.
legitimately, you
Yeah.
should play Ocarina of Time. It's
it sounded like a drunk sentiment. Like, everyone
Well,
should play Ocarina
we had
of
a
Time
friend
once
who was a
That's
drunk.
a very particular.
Yeah, we had a friend
Yeah,
who was a
yeah.
drunk, and he was very like upset at
Adamant.
me once. No,
You know, like-
specifically, and mad at me once because
Angry,
he
yes.
he was
at
drunk,
that
and I
state.
said I had never played Ocarina of Time. Like,
Shit.
And you two
So-
legitimately argued about it for like 2 hours because you never give up an argument and he was drunk. So,
Yeah.
of course, he was never
I
going to give up an argument
I have
either.
a problem.
I don't know why you would like, and that's kind of weird to me because I don't know why you would get mad at someone for not having done something. It's not like, oh yeah, fucking Citizen Kane's fucking trash. I hate it.
I mean,
You goddamn
I've also never seen Citizen Kane, though.
I
That's
mean,
on
that's
my list of
fine.
movies to see. I
No,
want to
yeah.
see it. I just haven't really had the. There's nothing that's drawn me to going back and playing that. And with
Yeah.
the when it comes specifically to the 3D Zelda games, a lot of it was just I didn't have those consoles. I never owned
Yeah.
a Nintendo 64. I
Mm.
owned a GameCube really late in the life cycle and never picked up Wind Waker. I never had a
Yeah.
Wii, so I could never play Wind Waker on Wii, or Skyward Sword, or Twilight Princess.
Yeah.
Like, these are
Excuse me.
those games that I've missed were solely just because I never had that console. So
Yeah, and that's like a lot of the games like that are sort of important to gaming that I've missed are exactly the same reason.
right.
Like, yeah, so yeah, like I
Like
completely
I-
understand
I
that.
know people who have never played Halo Combat Evolved. That is
Yeah.
one of the most influential first-person shooters in a long time, and
Oh yeah,
people who
undeniably.
didn't have the Xbox never played it. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so it's
or
hard
like
to
a
be
PC
mad.
that ran it. Yeah.
Well, I would
Even
not say
the-
that the PC version is a fair version of that game. It is a very compromised version of that game, which
Yeah.
is weird,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. Like, so
Yeah, I don't. I feel like I've played like most of the games that were really influential to gaming. Like, I played the original GoldenEye. I played Ocarina of Time. You know, I played like Super Mario RPG and shit. Obviously, all the Mario Brother games, but who hasn't? I played
well, I
Halo,
haven't played all of them
just-
Mario games, but
just you know, like all the good shit that came out up to. Basically,
I
I
don't know.
played all the good
If you
shit that
look
came
at-
out until the like PlayStation 3 and Xbox
I've-
360.
I've played a
Yeah.
majority of the keynote games, like the games. Like I played Half-Life 1 and 2. I've played the Mario games. I haven't played Mario World 3 or whatever, the one that not the one where it's a side scroller, the other one. Not when it's Doki Doki Panic, the one that is like the
Oh, Super
the
Mario
third-
Brothers 2.
Panic is Super Mario
Okay,
Brothers
yeah.
2.
Yeah.
Well,
Super
it's
Mario
like, it was
Bros.
like
3
released
is-
as like the Lost Levels in America on the SNES.
no, I think it was the one that was Super Mario 3. Super Mario Bros. 3, the one with the
like
spades and
the
stuff.
stage setting. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
like the whole thing was set like a stage.
Yeah, I never
Yeah.
played that one, but I played Super Mario World, so I feel like that
I played
might
that
as
one
well count.
on the same cartridge
fair
as
enough.
Duck Hunt.
I played
Wait,
Halo.
you did not play Super Mario Brothers 3 on that. You played Super Mario Brothers on the same. Learn your history, Dalsson. You fucking.
I played Halo. I've played the original Deus Ex. I've played the original Doom. I've not played System Shock 2, which is
Really?
kind of on my list. But at this point, I'm waiting for it to be remade because I know that they're remaking it.
At this point, just play Prey.
Like I don't know.
I don't know. I'd
Well-
still say System Shock 2.
System Shock 2 is a remake. Is supposed to be a faithful remake of System Shock with some modern elements. Like so, I don't. I feel like the one part of
10 years
System
ago,
Shock that was like good was the immersive elements, the setting, and the like the antagonist, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So I think a lot of that would transfer over to a remake of that. So I don't feel super drawn to go back and play it. I don't know.
It's, especially when like some of the like the menu systems and controls of System Shock
Yeah.
were very very early like PC first person shooter RPG where it was
Yeah.
a little bit. It was a
You know
little
what's
bit
funny
messy,
is
you know.
like
Which
all
is the
of
same
those
problem I
games
had with
that
Deus Ex. But
all of those games that were like that were similar to System Shock were like they have like iconic stories and villains. Like Deus Ex is one of those games. Then obviously System Shock 2.
I never got far
Then-
enough in Deus Ex to actually know anything about the villain other than I know that there was a vague conspiracy. So
BioShock. Do either of you
I played
know
the
what
original
the
BioShock.
twist in BioShock is? Because that's like one of the most iconic twists in gaming at this point, I would say.
Which
I
one are
do
you
not
talking
know.
about? Possibly.
The very end
BioShock 1.
of BioShock 1. Yeah.
Can
does
we
anybody-
spoil it? I think we can spoil it.
Yeah,
Right?
it's
been 10 years.
Is it that the person becomes Big Daddy?
No.
No.
It's so you're working for a man named Atlas the whole time, and he's trying to get you to take down Andrew Ryan, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And he is telling you all these horrible things about Andrew Ryan and how bad he is and blah blah blah. Finally, you get to fight Andrew Ryan, and you don't even really fight him that much. He just tells you that you are being hypnotized by Atlas. Through the whole game, he uses the phrase, "Would you kindly do this? Would you kindly do that?" And "would you kindly" is your hypnotic trigger word to force you into doing it. So it's almost a little bit meta because, he says, "Would you kindly," you get that objective, and then obviously as the player, you're going to go do it, right?
Yeah.
So it's a really interesting thing, and that's
Well,
like a twist at the very, very end of the
I
game.
feel like I would have to play that game, but I don't know how much that. I mean, I guess I would have to play it to see, but it's really hard to like feel like that's that crazy of a thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I know,
Yeah.
like at
You
the
have to
time-
experience it, right? But
Yeah, exactly. I played it like basically when it first came out, and when
I feel like for
when
instance,
Andrew Ryan was
BioShock
explaining that to me,
Infinite,
I was
which I
like,
did play to the completion, mostly just because halfway through I was like, okay, I just have to finish this game. But I played BioShock Infinite to completion, and I felt like while it had a good twist, it wasn't that influential the same way.
Yeah.
But I feel like
Yeah.
BioShock 1 as a game is very influential, but I
Oh,
don't
for sure.
necessarily
Yeah.
know that the story is like
But it was
what was
still,
influential
I don't
about
know.
it.
I
it
would
was still
say
like
it was.
System Shock, but underwater.
I don't feel
Yeah.
like the specifics of the story is what made BioShock's story influential. I feel like it was how it was presented that made it influential. Does
Yeah,
that make sense?
Possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's just
It-
splitting hairs, I guess. So I don't know.
Yeah.
BioShock does do the thing that like is my favorite thing in video games. It's like a post-destruction type of world where you kind of learn even little tidbits about like you go into this apartment and you listen to an audio recording, and this is how this family died. And that's like, I love when shit does that. It's my favorite thing, and it's because I love Fallout so much.
You know, it's kind of a funny comparison.
What's that?
Compare Breath of the Wild with Dark Souls, right?
Oh,
Yeah, I knew you were going there.
The more that you kind of compare those games, the more similar they seem. Like, it's kind of a meme to say X is the X of Dark Souls, right? But Breath of the Wild is the Dark Souls of Zelda, right? But not in the way that you would kind of expect. Yes, it is more difficult and has timing is important in it. But at the same time, it's very like atmospheric in its storytelling. It's very much about the freedom of exploration. You kind of have the option to go wherever you want and learn by context whether or not you should be there. Whereas I feel like it's kind of and it has a large variety of weapons. Although I think the difference between Dark Souls and Breath of the Wild with that is Breath of the Wild forces you to change weapons, where Dark Souls doesn't as much.
Dark Souls, you can grab the first weapon in the game and upgrade it to the max, and
so you could literally just use one weapon the whole game in Dark Souls, which you can't do in Zelda. Even to the extent that you get the Master Sword, you can't only use the Master Sword even at that point, because like we said, it goes on cooldown.
It'll break for 10 minutes,
I was very upset to find out that it did not regenerate over time. You had to break it, otherwise it wouldn't repair itself.
Yeah.
Which was really annoying to me, because it was like, oh, this is damage, I'll stop using it. 20 hours later, it is still damaged. I'm just going to shoot it nothing until it breaks.
Yeah.
I don't know. But, like, I feel like, in a lot of ways, Breath of the Wild probably did take a lot of cues from Dark Souls as well as Skyrim and Oblivion and whatever. Like, and they're more similar games than you might expect, even though that, like, people don't say Zelda is the Dark Souls of whatever because, you know, it's not known for being difficult, even though it is easily the most difficult Zelda game to ever come out.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's kind of an interesting thing to like look at. It actually makes me wonder if I would like Dark Souls more if I gave it another chance. My problem with Dark Souls 1 was that the port was janky. If I went back through maybe Dark Souls 2, I might enjoy it more. Because the port was less janky, but I don't know.
Dark Souls 2 is like everybody's least favorite Dark Souls game. I think it's probably my favorite. I don't know why. I can't explain it, but there it is. It's out there.
I don't know. I feel like Dark Souls 2 feels like a good starting point anyway, because it's not like the stories are directly connected anyway, right?
No, none of them are basically none of them are directly connected.
Do they even really like take place in the same kind of place?
I think Dark Souls 2 takes place like 1,000 years after Dark Souls 1.
Is the geography different?
It is a different place. Dark Souls 3 takes place in the same areas as Dark Souls 1. But it's still like such a vast time has passed that it's different.
So yeah, I don't know. That we have talked about Breath of the Wild for 45 minutes now. Yeah. Which is good because I've played or watched literally nothing else this week. So that's all I have to talk about.
Okay, another thing like about speaking of Breath of the Wild and because of some other stuff that's come out recently, this feels like a good time to bring up speaking of open world games, a game that I've always wanted is a game like Grand Theft Auto, but it's set in like a fucking Blade Runner cyberpunk sort of future universe. I want that shit. Rockstar. Where the fuck is my Blade Runner?
What are you talking about? CD Projekt Red, the guys who made Witcher, is literally making Cyberpunk 2045 or whatever right now.
And hopefully it'll be that. I'm super happy about that.
It looks really good. So they're already doing Cyberpunk, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, what I'm talking about.
I wish this thing that is currently in development and we know kind of a lot about right now would exist. I don't know.
Yeah.
That said, though,
here's the thing. I feel like, I don't know.
Let's talk about Divine Cybermancy.
Oh shit!
But it's
I mean,
not.
that's right, I suppose.
Thank you.
A little
Saine,
bit.
I agree. Let's not actually do that.
Okay, that's fine.
Fuck you,
It's
Thel.
2077 is what it is.
Yeah, 2077.
I could have sworn they pushed it up. I could have sworn
Yeah.
it was like an earlier date when it was first announced before.
Well,
Witcher
it's
it was
was,
based
like,
off of the book
2077, but they-
2020, I think.
Yeah.
But the only reason they named it 2077 is because that's the year they plan to release it. So
Yeah, you know. Yeah. That's why I'm hoping for like a game like that comes out at some point in time. Rockstar, get on that.
Well, it's saying that it should come out in 2019.
Okay.
That's what they've said. That's their target date. So,
Yeah. All right. That's fair. I do
Cyberpunk
remember. Yeah.
2019.
and
Excellent.
even if it's delayed, it might be 2020. But like, that's not that far away, really. Especially for CD Projekt Red, right? I don't know.
Yeah. And hopefully it's. But yeah, I remember that. Oh shoot. Well, wasn't it like? It was announced a long ass time ago.
What?
I don't. 2077. The with that E3 trailer with the girl getting shot in the face.
2000. I just looked at it. I think it was
Personal.
2014. I think it was announced.
Yeah. Shit.
Responsibility.
No, 2012. It was even longer ago.
Yeah.
5 years ago now.
Yeah. Goddamn.
But I feel like they've been targeting 2019 the whole
2019
time,
for a
and I
while.
think they were working concurrently with Witcher 3, which
Yeah.
came out 2 years ago now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But hey, I mean, they made a shit ton of money off of Witcher 3, so I'm hoping that spills over to this one.
They're also getting money from their government. I read a story about how like their government is partially funding it because of it's considered new technology and stuff.
Yeah.
What? How?
Unlike the
Well, because their case for it was artificial intelligence, basically technology. So, and actually, if you think about it, a lot of our artificial and technology and everything is kind of based around what we've learned from video games. So,
Yeah.
I don't know.
And Star Trek.
Well, I mean, those are speculative things, though.
Yeah.
Whereas,
we talked about. Yeah.
like, the lessons we learned by developing video games were actual lessons that we now know. So
I'm glad that Brent Spiner is actually a real robot. They built him.
you know
They
another
built
game I
Bruce
really
Wayne.
enjoyed? Metal Gear Solid. That was another game that took the same idea of kind of going wherever you want, and then they even
Metal Gear
further
Solid, yeah.
and then they even further developed it in Phantom Pain, where you could actually just do whatever the hell you want.
Literally just
Yeah.
do whatever you want.
That game,
Yeah.
like I love that more and more games are using systems like immersive simulator systems as the like kind of focus of their game. Like one of
Yeah,
the best
but-
parts about Zelda is the physics engine.
Metal Gear Solid was like always on the curve with that, or ahead of it, just
Yeah.
because
Uh,
Kojima likes to do shit like that.
I feel like
Yeah.
there was a major jump between Metal Gear Solid. Well, I would say Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and 3 were very iterative on it, and it was a slow build up, but I would not say that a lot. Like, yes, there were systems, but I would not say that the systems interacted in a like a unique way. The same way it
Right.
does in Phantom Pain. Like Phantom
Right.
Pain, you can do weird stuff like fall down a box and then use that box to knock someone over, and then like that'll kill them, and then you can take their body and stage it somewhere, and that'll lead people to like explore, and like you can break stuff, and that'll like consistently lead people to come and check on it. Like the just sheer number of ways you can interact with characters is a huge leap from Metal Gear Solid 3 to Metal Gear Solid 5. I'd say Metal Gear Solid 4 doesn't really count because that is the most linear out of all of them. So that one is more on rails than any other Metal Gear Solid, so I don't really like to compare that to the other ones because it kind of doesn't
Yeah.
fit. So
the only Metal Gear game that's more linear is Metal Gear Rising, and that's not even a solid game.
That's a platinum game.
Yeah, that's a platinum game.
yeah, I don't know. Phantom Pain is
Yeah. It's great.
Okay, so I started. Who else
Okay.
wants to talk?
Well, I suppose I did do one thing. I
Mhm.
played through a good portion of Slime Rancher.
Oh,
Oh.
Um,
okay.
yeah, it's at it's a game where you farm slimes. That's it. You
That's
go
on my
explore.
list of games to play, and I was
I was
happy. I was happy that
yeah.
Dalsson got it, but I never ended up starting it. So
Yeah. See, I was there when Thel was playing it. And Thel got probably 20 to 30 times farther in the like 4 hours that I was listening to him play it than I did in the like 7 days straight that I played it. So
to be fair, at that game's
now
core,
I never want to play. Now I never want to play Slime Rancher again.
well, I think to be fair, that game at its core is a simulation game.
Uh,
So Thel plays a lot more simulation games, so he would
Yeah.
be better at it. I would
Plus,
assume.
like the thing is with Slime Rancher is one of the things I'm really good at in video games, and this is like any video game for some reason. I'm really good at making money in video games. I'm really good at getting that dosh, and
Well,
Slime Rancher
because
is
most games, the way that you get money, especially in simulation style games,
yeah,
is through I don't know, using the
playing the
systems.
game
Well,
correctly.
using the systems, and the more
yeah,
you play simulation system games, the more you get better at doing that for other games. Like
yeah,
you might not think that the skills for City Skylines or Sim City is as transferable as it would be to Slime Rancher, but inherently at their core they are straight up connected. It's the same thing
yeah,
like
Right.
clickers. Clickers are the same kind of thing.
yeah.
At their core, they're simulation games. So
Right.
Well, and I wouldn't say so much like Sim Cities or City Skylines, but more like
Stardew
uh
Valley or
Stardew
Harvest
Valley. Thank
Moon.
you.
well, no, I
Yeah,
mean there are straight up transferable skills like planning and like resource allocation. Like those are all things that even from SimCity have been a thing for basically
Right.
since.
Like the
I don't
first
know.
thing I did was build like 4 pins for the 4 types of slimes I could access without expanding my farm and like upgrading all of those pins immediately. But within 2 hours, that was like, okay, well, I've got these invisible radioactive slimes going, and I'm gonna stick these guys in a pin. I'm gonna crossbreed all these. See, like, I think what you did was you went into crossbreeding the slimes, and I just basically didn't because I thought it was too dangerous.
mm. Like
I
I've
feel like
never
that's the
like
point of the game, but
yeah, I have never had like in any at any point in time. The reason that I started crossbreeding slimes was just because of the fact that like again it comes to resource management is chickens are kind of annoying to grow, and I didn't want to have like a ton of chicken farms. So if things could like eat vegetables or meats, or if things ate just ate meats, I would crossbreed them with something that ate vegetables just so I could feed them something else.
Right.
But yeah,
and a lot of that is specialization, right? That's another
yeah,
skill that's kind of picked up with games like that.
yeah.
It's really easy to fall into the trap of games like that and trying to do everything and
Yeah.
succeeding at nothing. So
Right.
I
And
don't
one
know.
of the things like that Dalsson did really early on was he upgraded his pins all the way with like feeders and plort collectors that just did everything automatically so long as you kept it stock, and I didn't do that until like a bunch of hours into the game. Like I didn't do that until I got into the ancient ruins.
Right. See,
Just
I
because
felt
like my
like it
stuff
was
got really annoying to manage
necessary.
myself.
I felt like it was necessary because I didn't want to sit there and manage my farm every 2 or 3 minutes, go back and feed the slime so they didn't get too agitated
Well,
and
I
jump
think
out.
that what I'm kind of taking away from this though is not that Thel is better at it than you. He progressed faster, sure, but honestly, that game is kind of about mitigating the things you don't like, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So Thel didn't want to feed stuff meat, so instead he just went out of his way to make them take vegetables. Whereas you kind of didn't care about that. You didn't really want to crossbreed them, so you just focused on making your pens better. Like that if what you're trying to do is progress faster, then sure, Thel's was better able to progress
Method
faster.
was
But at the
better,
same
yeah.
time, you mitigated the stuff that you didn't like about the game, so I feel like that's
Right.
fine too.
Yeah.
Like, I don't.
It was the same thing in Stardew Valley. Like, everybody else that I talked to in Stardew Valley just, like, spent a ton of time working on their farm and making money hella fast, but all I did every day was basically just water my crops manually and then go right to the mines and see how deep I could get, because I liked fighting shit in that game.
Right, and do you know what I did in Stardew Valley? I
What?
watered my crops and then went fishing for hours.
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah.
and I know for a fact that what other people
Most
did in
people
Stardew
don't like
Valley was
fishing.
ignore their farm almost entirely and go follow people around all day to see what their routes were. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like I really love when games give you the freedom to kind of pick your own path and decide how you want to do things however you want. And that's why I think that's why I've always been attracted to simulation games. And it's not that I don't like story-heavy games, because I do. I played through Heavy Rain. I went through all of Heavy Rain, and I really look back fondly on that game. I would not say it was one of my favorite games of all time, but I really think about that game relatively often. Like, I don't know. I have a kind of a wider variety of interest in games, but the games that I enjoy playing the most are the ones that let you screw around with systems. Like managing what characters are doing. You know, I don't know. It's way more interesting to me to do stuff like that than play like first person shooters all the time. Like, I play a lot of Overwatch and stuff too, but that's like a social experience for me. Like, that's not I don't really play Overwatch that much on my own. And occasionally I'll do, but not for long periods of time, whereas I will sink hours and hours and hours and hours into simulation games. Even ones that aren't like Breath of the Wild. Like, not even discounting Breath of the Wild, I'll dump tons of hours into like a roguelike that I enjoy. And that's the same thing with Cataclysm for you.
Yeah, I love it because it's different every single time and there's no real end goal.
Or even Warframe, like you do the same thing. You kind of decide what you want to do. You wander around and or take certain missions to kind of progress however you want to. In that game's case, like you get specific frames or stuff you want to play.
I'll look at the map and see, oh, there's a pharmacy over there, and I'll probably need medicine later, so I should go to that. But I'm not strong enough to get through that city, so I better craft this and that and that and the other thing.
Right.
Or Warframe, it'll be like, oh, hey, I need this. I want to play as this new character, so I'm going to farm for this relic in order to get it to try to get the new prime version of there's no real end game, but you're just doing it because you want the new thing, and it's not unfun to do it.
I feel like my issue with Warface was just that it felt treadmill-y. I felt like the only reason to get stuff was in service of getting more stuff. Which I know that a lot of people like. And I'm not bemoaning them. I'm not saying
that's
bad.
how WoW survived for years.
Yeah, but I
don't think it's super treadmill-y, like in the aspect of getting new stuff to get better stuff, but it is treadmill-y in getting new stuff to get different new stuff that's on the same level.
Either way, I mean, you're still getting stuff so you can get new stuff.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I don't know. And sure, like Breath of the Wild has that to an extent. Like I spent 2 hours searching for lizards. But I don't know, like I felt like I got a real reward out of that. And I didn't feel like I needed to do that. I did that because I wanted to, which is nice. Right. I feel like when I'm in a game that feels like that's all I can do, that's when it turns me off. Whereas in Breath of the Wild, I didn't have to go get armors or lizards to upgrade my fireproof armor. I just wanted to. By the way, I totally got to Goron City the wrong way. It's kind of funny. I instead of and I can't believe I didn't remember this, but you can get fireproof elixirs which stop you from being on fire. And what I did was I totally missed the path that takes you to the guy who gives you a piece of armor so you don't light on fire. I healed through being on fire.
Same.
Um,
Same.
I just had a bunch of hardy stuff, and I just accepted the fact that I was on fire for a while.
When you got to Goron City, were you still on fire? Because I had the fireproof armor by the time I actually got to the city.
No. I got to Goron City, and I bought armor from the armor shop. That's how I got my fireproof armor.
Nice!
To the, like, it... Because what I'm talking about is if you use fireproof elixirs or accept that you're on fire and go talk to this guy, he gives you a quest that allows you to get one piece of fireproof armor that will stop you from being on fire. I got to the city surrounded by lava pits and bought the armor in town. That's, I don't know.
The Goron's like, my there, little man, you sure seem to be on fire there.
It's like, wow, you should really put something on that protects you better.
Nah, dude, I'm good. Listen, hey.
And I'm sitting there going, please sell me some armor.
You want a hardy radish, buddy?
But what's great about that game is it allows you the freedom to approach obstacles in different ways. Like,
Yeah,
I
it's
just
great
happened to
that
not
you
go the
can
right
do
way.
that.
And I didn't, and I forgot about the fireproof elixirs because I knew that you could do that. At one point, it just had been 40 hours or something since I last remembered.
Yeah, and that's
anything
the
about
only
it.
place.
Yeah.
That's the only place in the game that's hot enough that you light on fire instead of just taking heat damage.
Right.
So,
And it's basically the same. You just take damage faster on fire, but
well, yes, but heat-resistant clothing will stop the heat damage, but it won't stop you from lighting on fire.
So the way that I actually got there, and I'm not going to take much longer on this, but the way that I actually got on there is I looked at the map and I was like, okay, I see pools of water here. I'm going to go there. So when you're standing in water, you're not on fire. I learned.
Oh my God.
So I was like, okay, so I went from pool to pool, and I got to the end of it, and I was like, okay, and I looked at my map again, and I was like, Goron Tunnel. That sounds like something that maybe wouldn't be in lava.
Yeah.
So I went to Goron Tunnel, which, by the way, is the wrong way, kind of. And then in Goron Tunnel, I was like, nope, this isn't where I need to be. So I was like, oh, well, here's a path. I'll just follow this path. And then eventually got to the hot springs, which is a different pool of bodies of water. I was like, okay, I'm now here. And then some people are talking. What?
Like, you're in the hot springs, which is like water that is heated by lava, but because it's water, you aren't on fire, so
Right.
it's okay.
And it heals you. Those hot springs actually heal you when you sit in it, which is nice too.
Nice.
But so I'm sitting in the water
Yes.
going, well, crap, this isn't where I need to be either. So I look at the map again, and I was like, okay, well, this looks like a lot of lava, but there are lots of bridges over here. So I was like, that must be the town. I do not know how that can't be Goron City. So, and lo and behold, that's what it was. But I get there, and I'm finally like, please sell me some armor. I am out of any healing items anymore.
I like the idea that you've just been on fire for a couple of hours. You have
I
like
was on fire.
3rd-degree burns all over your body, and you're like, oh, thank God, some boiling hot water to soak in.
Yeah.
That will heal my burns.
Hey, when you're literally on fire, hot springs have to be cooler than being in the air, right?
Yeah.
So
That's true.
you think about it that way. So, but that's a story that could only exist in a game that doesn't hold your hand and say, you literally cannot go to this area unless you have this armor.
Yeah.
Like, that is a story that
Because
only
games do
exists
that.
because I took a wrong turn. So,
Like
Yeah.
like Metroid, for example, which I am in no way at all saying any of them are bad games except for Metroid Other M.
Yeah.
You cannot go. It's impossible.
It is not
you
impossible.
Can't go. What?
you can sequence break quite a bit in Metroid, and actually,
Yeah.
the most lauded Metroids are the ones that you can sequence break harder. Super Metroid, you notably can scale walls and stuff by dropping bombs, and it's like, maybe that's maybe that was intentional, maybe that wasn't unintentional, but like,
I was
don't know.
specifically talking about the Various suit. Most areas that are too hot for you to enter, you can't survive long enough to do anything in them if you don't have the Various suit, because your health will drain too fast.
Mhm.
So like, yes, you can sequence break and get the Various suit really fast, but you can't actually go to those hot damaging areas without the various suit. Whereas in
Yeah.
Zelda, sure, you can do it.
Yeah. So, and I don't know. I feel
You
like
just need to be prepared.
I feel like the nice thing about Zelda is everything you can do. Like, everything you get makes other things easier. It doesn't make it so that you can do things. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Which is super nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Like, I'm sure you could beat Ganon without the Master Sword. You don't
no,
even
you
need
can
it.
for sure.
Easy.
So that's Slime Rancher.
Yeah, it was
Yep.
Slime
Do
Rancher.
you have any more thoughts about Slime Rancher specifically before we move on? Because I think we tangented
honestly,
really hard
here's
again.
the thing. Here's the thing. A lot of people really like Slime Rancher. I also really like it, but it feels kind of like a watered down Stardew Valley. There's like fun things to do in it, but it's a little bit. Like personally, I feel like there could have been a little bit more.
I
But
feel like a lot of that just is like what your taste is. Like, some people just enjoy being in third person more, like in a 3D environment more. So
yeah.
I feel
I
like
actually really enjoy it, like being in that 3D environment. It just felt a little bit like
right. Well,
there
I mean,
were
it's
some
hard to
slimes.
compare to a 2D
Yeah.
game that has a lot of content because it's
Yeah.
easier to make 2D content.
Yeah.
So I think that there's at least some like excuse to be had there, right? But
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, it's definitely a good game, and if you want to ranch adorable little slime bastards, this is the game for it. Those little assholes sure get up to some hijinks,
yeah, and I want to play.
That's always fun.
I want to jump back into Stardew Valley again. My problem is I have a lot of games that both I want to play more in the future, and old games that I want to revisit. Like,
Yeah.
playing a lot of Zelda's actually made me want to go play more Phantom Pain. It also makes me want to go back and play like Ocarina of Time because I never played that game. It also makes me, and then like, but I also have these other games that I really want to get back into, like Persona 4 or Persona 5. I still want to put more time into. Like, I want to start Nier Automata. I want to play more Cuphead. Like, there have just been so many good games. I haven't had enough time to both play enough games that we have stuff to talk about on the podcast, and also really sink my teeth into some of these games. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I feel that way.
Yeah.
But someday, we all three of us will be making enough money that I can quit my management position and just rake in YouTube and Twitch bucks.
Yeah.
Maybe
Problem
someday.
solved.
Maybe
Video
someday.
games. We're not working.
Dalsson,
And then I'll still just play Cataclysm and Warframe all day. It'll be great.
how about movies and TV? Is there anything you want to touch on? Oh.
Should we talk about Better Call Saul? We haven't really
Let's
finished
wait
it.
until we finish it. Yeah, at least to where it is now.
So far, like just to run it down really quick, it is really good, and I feel like a lot of people didn't like or want to watch Breaking Bad because of the like subject matter of Breaking Bad. Better Call Saul is just like
talking specifically about me, but I don't know.
Not just you. I know a couple other people that are the same way. And Better Call Saul definitely, like, it has that same quality, and the main character is fantastic. He's from Breaking Bad.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah.
And it's just really good, and it doesn't have as egregious of a subject matter.
Maybe I'll go back and give it another shot then. I was still hesitant to go into Better Call Saul because it was connected to Breaking Bad, and I know that maybe that's not fair. I don't know.
It's pretty far disconnected. I mean, like, a couple of like cameo characters show up,
right?
But
it's a prequel.
It's pretty far it's about 20
sort of,
years. It's not exactly a prequel because the events, at least so far, we've watched a season and a half or so, have almost no connection whatsoever to the events of Breaking Bad. But
it's basically it's basically a story about like two side characters from Breaking Bad that were like fan favorites and that got their own show now.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it ends in the main character going on to be in Breaking Bad, or is it
probably
like parts of it happen concurrently?
Yeah. No, none of it happens concurrently.
It's like 20 years
20 years.
before Breaking Bad. Yeah.
Yeah. We don't know because I don't think like the series has gotten to that point yet.
Okay,
Like it'll
I don't think it's
probably
over
end
yet.
there, but we don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I don't know. I'm vaguely interested in it. I should probably give it a chance because
It is like
it is
very
really
much about
good.
being a lawyer,
Yeah.
which is makes sense. Saul Goodman from Breaking Bad
That's
was
fine.
he was just a dirty lawyer. So
Yeah.
it's very much about trying to be a good lawyer.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, that's pretty much the whole show.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
Any games or movies you want to talk about? Do you want to talk about Warframe some more?
I mean, I could, but I would just really be telling you what I've been doing. I've just been trying to farm for better shit for my guns, basically. All of the guns. I don't think I've actually like, for anybody who doesn't know how Warframe works, I don't think I've actually explained. In Warframe, guns level up, and they don't actually gain any power in leveling up, but they gain more sockets for mods, and the mods will do things like increase the damage at a flat amount. You can put elemental damage on it, which is really important. You can increase there's a stat called multi-shot, which will increase the number of bullets, and basically for every single gun in the game you want a maxed out damage mod and a maxed out multi-shot mod, because that's the biggest factor in damage in your guns.
That's the meta.
I mean, sure, but just adding flat damage to your gun is always going to be good. There's no way to
adding
change
a
that.
flat damage and then adding a multiplier. Those are.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Like,
No, I get it.
It's like yeah, that's the meta. It's like the meta for
that's like saying, yeah, the meta in Overwatch is shooting at the other guy.
Yeah, the meta for playing Pharah is to use your rocket jump as much as you can and shoot at them from above.
Yeah, exactly. But so I've been doing these like vault runs, which are they've been in the game for a while. So anybody
Like in
who knows
Borderlands.
no, anybody who knows about
Borderlands. That's another game on my list of favorite games.
Oh yeah,
Even though that one is a little bit more lower on the list, but
yeah, definitely.
So what you do is you have to build a key, or whoever the host of the match is has to build a key to go to the Orokin Derelict, and that takes like a minute and some resources to build. And then each of you have to have, like, that's just a regular mission, right? The vault is totally unrelated, but there will be a vault that spawns somewhere in the mission. So each of you have to have a thing called a dragon key. There are 4 different types. One of them decreases your max health by like 90%. One of them decreases your max shields by 90%. One of them reduces your move speed by 90%. And one of them reduces your damage by 90%. And the vault is unlocked by a random one of those keys. So you want to have 4 players, each with 1 key. And I like...
That's interesting.
In the end, it's just farming, right? You're just kind of sitting there farming. But it's still pretty neat because you kind of have to like if you join a pickup group, right? It's like, oh, okay, I need to take the one that reduces my shields because nobody else wants to take that one. So I'm going to take this Warframe called Inaros, who is a Warframe that doesn't have any shields to begin with. So basically you negate the downside by like taking particular equipment.
No, that sounds pretty interesting. I like that design. I like asynchronous design in general.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing about Warframe. I sort of feel like I never really got into it, but I feel like it's a good game. You know,
I feel like I can see the appeal of it.
Yeah,
it's just like far away from what I enjoy in video games.
The developers definitely make some pretty bad design decisions a lot of times. Like that's something that I don't think anybody will dispute who plays it. But I mean, I find it really fun. It's really entertaining to me.
Right.
And I feel like
and it's like at its
like
base level, it's free. So I mean,
yeah.
I know that neither of you, or especially Saine, I don't know, Thel doesn't seem very interested either. I know that neither of you really want to try and get into it, but I feel like
I will never play Warframe again.
Once, like, as a whole, just directed to everybody, I feel like the beginning of Warframe is really a slog but it's a combination of getting better and getting better things. Because once you get better at the game, like it's not just a pure RPG, you know.
Does the game get
You
harder?
do get better at playing it. Oh, the game gets
Because I
way
was
harder.
bored for like the first
Yeah, that was
10
my
hours
biggest
or
problem.
something that I was putting
The
into
game
it.
gets significantly harder.
Because
But
it starts off, and I felt like nothing was even a threat for a lot of it.
Yeah,
basically,
when I first started playing the game, it was like I tried to do stealth runs just because it's like I could kill everything, but you know, whatever.
yeah.
It's like,
Basically,
that's way too easy.
once you start unlocking new warframes, that's when the game starts to get a lot more fun. Like that is the point. Because each new warframe, you know, it's playing a different character. You have different health and shield values. You have 4 new abilities to try out.
Yeah, but it's a lot of...
That's the biggest...
I feel like it's a lot of work for just a character unlock. I don't know.
It's true. Yeah.
At any rate, I don't know. I don't dispute that Warframe is a good game. I just really don't like it.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I agree that it's not for everybody. I don't think it's
I think that it has the kind of benefit that a lot of like MMO style games have, that you can kind of sort of just fall into it and just kind of like it's something that's not stressful a lot of the times, that you can just
you can just kind of chill.
And there are moments where it could be harder, but like for the baseline of it isn't that hard. So
yeah,
like if you want to just farm, it's not that hard to just go farm. So
if you do like there are missions that are endless, like survival and defense type missions, where it just goes until you decide you're done, and it ramps up in difficulty a lot. And then once you get to the later on planets, like, you know, you start at Mercury, you go through the whole solar system, eventually you get to Pluto, and then Pluto splits off into like a couple of Pluto's moons and shit. And like the content in that area, like you have to have maxed out shit. Like you're not gonna bring in a fucking gun that's not leveled because you want to level it up, because that would just be a waste of time. You wouldn't be able to do it.
That sounds like artificial difficulty.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think that for me, I probably would have been able to get through a lot of that if the game was harder from the beginning, because like if you talk about the concept of flow, right? Like that point where you feel like you're being challenged, but it's like the right amount of challenge that you kind of go into the zone. Like that was not, I was never experiencing that in all the time that I played Warframe, and it just took...
don't think you would, honestly.
Yeah.
Like when Warframe is like, there are points in the game where you'll get one shot and you'll know that it's because you have the wrong equipment. And then there are points in the game where like very occasionally I've had like there are interesting areas like Earth's Moon, Lua. They added recently, it has like actual for real legitimate puzzles to solve, like Resident Evil style puzzles. It has platforming segments that you have to like actually platform in, not just like, oh, you have to jump 10 feet in the air. Right. It has like it has a bunch of cool stuff, but that's not the core of the game. And like in the end, if you're not good enough to do something, it's there's like a it's probably a gear check. There's like an 80-20% chance that you haven't created the correct gear. But that's what I like about it. It's not like, oh, I did this mission and got a gun that has 500 more damage. It's, oh no, I can't do this mission, so I need to go look at this gun that I'm using and see what mods I have to fix that. You know what I mean?
I guess that's kind of interesting, but
it's more about like thinking about the creation of the weapons rather than
playing the game,
rather than actually just like gear treadmill. Like, well, I mean, kind of.
Well, yes. I mean, there are elements of both. I think that's, I don't know. I see the appeal of Warframe. It's just not for me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Is there anything else we want to talk about before we go to break?
I think that's about it for me.
You guys haven't watched anything else?
No,
No?
I really
Okay.
haven't.
Okay, that's fine.
Mm-mm.
In that case, we're going to break. What time is it? 5. So
5:20?
how about 5:25? We can come back.
Okay, sounds
Okay.
Does
good.
that
Sounds
does
good.
5 minutes sound
Yeah.
fine, or would you want a longer break?
5 minutes is good. I can deal with
Yeah,
that.
5 minutes is cool. Anytime you go to the bathroom
Okay.
and eat something.
So we will be back at 5:25 then. We will catch you guys in a few minutes.
Stay beautiful in the meantime.
Like in 5 minutes.
Yeah, stay beautiful for 5 minutes. And we're back.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, how's everybody doing today?
I'm
back.
too close to my camera is how I'm doing. There we go. Much better. Now you can see my shoulders. These are important for context.
They contextualize your head.
Yeah, some people might say, if they were looking at me really zoomed in close, they would think, is that just a floating head? But no, there are shoulders here. It's a floating, like, torso thing. I also have these dislocated arms that...
That's true,
Come
there
from
are
somewhere.
shoulders.
Did this just say Breath of the Wild this whole time? I
No.
feel like I changed it, but
No,
it says
you
Breath of the
definitely
Wild
changed
again.
it.
I don't know why. Okay,
Strange.
so
See-
movie and gaming news. What do we want to start with?
Oh, let's start with gaming news, just because there's so little to talk about in movie news. Like, nothing happened.
Okay.
Oh, it was crazy.
Okay, so what do we got here?
Nothing.
Movie-
Also fucking nothing.
Not nothing, but not a lot. So the first thing, the Nintendo Switch update adds video capture and save data transfers, among a couple other things.
Which is great. Basically, Nintendo's like,
Excuse me. Sorry.
fuck you, people who are against GameStop.
It seems like it specifically is specifically compatible with a handful of games, so it doesn't look like it's 100% of the time a thing, but
Yeah.
at least it makes it
I do
easier for
hope-
people who want to capture off of the Nintendo Switch, so that's cool.
I do hope that they add Twitch streaming to the Nintendo Switch. If they do, I won't have to buy a capture card, and it's something that the other two home consoles have done. So, you know,
Yeah,
it'd be
but
nice.
the nice thing about a capture card is you do have more control over things that way, so you might want to consider that anyway. But
Yeah,
Yeah.
if I ever have the money.
Yeah. Such is life as a
speaking
man
of
who
money,
wants to
Destiny 2 comes out tomorrow.
Oh yeah. Destiny.
Yes, Destiny 2 will be fun,
Yes.
but I won't have $120 to spend on it.
Oh, well, I already have it, so it just, well, I guess it'd be
That's
you
why I
and Thel,
said
right?
120 and not 180.
There's coupons at Green Man Gaming. You can get it for 50. Anyway,
I'll think about it.
I'm just sad that I was the only one who bought it.
Man, I don't
Yeah, I
have money to
should've,
buy things. Shit. I had a cardboard background.
Eventually, you'll
I
buy
have
a vape pen and
posters.
Queen and AC/DC posters, and
Ooh.
a couple issues of Nintendo Power, which are now probably going to be.
And badly hidden dragon dildo.
And toys.
That one's not even in the
It's,
frame.
yeah, it's not in the frame. This time.
Oh gosh darn it.
Probably. a
One
vape
day you'll
pen.
have money to buy Minecraft.
I think I did actually buy Minecraft at one point.
I know you did. We
My
played it
friend
together.
Wingy bought
Oh,
me
okay,
Minecraft.
then, yeah.
25
Oh, is that what
years ago.
happened? Oh.
What?
I feel sorry for him. I don't feel like I played with him enough to have
No, he bought it for me. I didn't.
Oh,
No,
bought it for you. Oh, never
Wingy
mind.
bought me Minecraft. I don't know.
Okay, all right,
I don't
all
think
right,
he
yeah.
bought it with you. I don't think he bought it for you.
Okay, I thought you were just remembering this better than I did, which I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, well. Okay, so moving on. The dates for the next 3 Steam sales have been leaked.
Hooray!
The
And
next
speaking of
one-
not having enough money,
Yeah, right. The next one is the Halloween sale from October 26th to the 1st.
kind of weird.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
if you didn't want to buy Destiny, you probably spend that much on Steam games too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I could probably get like 30 of them.
It's kind of funny that they have like. I feel like they're having them even more and more frequent now.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
Do we really need a spring and an autumn sale in addition to a winter and summer sale?
Yeah.
Usually they aren't quite as good deals, though.
We've got
But,
some like
yeah, that might
fucking
be it.
Vivaldi sales going on.
Eh.
All 4 of them seasons.
All 4 of them seasons. Every
So, yeah.
October, autumn,
And then a bonus Halloween one, right?
Yeah. The 4 seasons: Halloween, autumn.
Halloween, autumn, winter.
December, and summer.
And summer. That's them. That's it.
Well, it's like, I mean, if you want to think about it, it's Halloween and autumn and Christmas/winter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So okay, that's maybe save some money for December 21st or November 22nd, which is the winter autumn sale. And then the Halloween sale starts on Thursday.
Or if you get paid on the 1st and the 15th, make sure you buy every single game on the 1st of November.
Activision Publisher Week is my favorite season.
Oh yeah, Activision
Anyway.
Publisher Week. I remember that song by Vivaldi.
Okay, Animal Crossing Nintendo Direct is happening tomorrow.
Oh fuck.
That's exciting.
It looks like it's going to be focused on their mobile platform, and I feel like of all of their games, it would make a lot of sense for Nintendo to have Animal Crossing. I just hope it doesn't feel as watered down as Fire Emblem did.
Yeah.
I enjoyed Fire Emblem a lot when I first got it, but after like a week or two, I was like, uninstall.
Yeah, I dropped off Fire Emblem really hard, which is kind of weird because I actually enjoy those Mobage games where you just like whole new characters and shit.
You should say gacha, not Mobage. Mobage is a specific company. I think gacha is more
Is it?
what you're actually talking about.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but whenever I see people talking about those types of game, they say Mobage as a genre.
Which is weird, but yeah,
I feel like
gacha.
I feel like gacha is a little bit more specific. Anyway, I mean that's just semantics, but
yeah.
I like mobile hero-based games, I guess.
This is kind of a weird one, but I don't know. This isn't super big news, but Shin Megami Tensei 5 is confirmed exclusively for the Switch. Or at least that's the only one they've said that it's being released on anyway. They didn't mention that it's exclusive.
It's kind of interesting because Persona has like almost completely avoided Nintendo except for spin-offs. And
what they've always done
Tensei has had Nintendo.
Yeah, what they've always kind of done is the mainline Shin Megami Tensei games have been Nintendo. Persona has been exclusively PlayStation.
Yeah.
And Demon and Devil Summoner have been mixed. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I feel like there's one
I don't
more.
know. It's weird.
Oh well, Persona Q was on. Yes, but that was.
And that was because it was also half Etrian Odyssey.
Yeah, that was a fringe case because it was Etrian Odyssey.
Yeah. Oh, and we do have to remember that the Sega Genesis did have Minnesota Fats Pool Legend, my favorite Shin Megami Tensei game.
Why do we have to remember that one?
Moving on. Another kind of Nintendo-centric story is the amiibos in Super Mario Odyssey will unlock content that you could otherwise unlock in the game. I don't know what it means that, like, I don't know how you unlock them in the game, but supposedly you don't actually have to buy the amiibos to get that content now, which is kind of interesting.
That's kind of good, because some people just don't want to spend money on amiibos, but at the same time, the amiibos lose their exclusivity for the game.
It's kind of, I guess it depends on how you look at amiibos in general, right? Because you can look at amiibos as DLC that come with a figure. Or you can think of them as figures that come with some exclusive content.
Game stuff. Yeah.
So it's that's what I like about amiibos. They have their content, their exclusive content gating and locks and whatnot. But I mean, in some games, obviously in Mario Odyssey, they won't have exclusive content. But they have that stuff, but there's still a physical object that you can hold in your hand that you're paying in the end for a figure. And if you already have that figure,
Well,
Nintendo continues to support that figure. Because every game
I mean,
has
to
one
limited extent.
practically.
Well, not every. Well, every game has one catch-all that is everything that they don't specifically recognize, I guess. But
Yeah,
I don't know, like
my Samus figure just gives me like a bunch of hardy radishes and shit in Breath of the Wild.
well, yeah, just
so.
random items. So
Yeah.
I don't know, like, but again, that goes to how you look at it. You look at it
Yeah.
as a figure that comes with content, whereas a lot of people
Exactly.
might look at it as content that comes with a figure. So it just kind of depends on how you feel about it.
Well, one
Right.
thing I do also like about amiibos is like, for instance, Dalsson, your Samus amigo.
Uh-huh.
Well, amiibo, not
Amiibo.
amigo. That's a totally different thing.
My Samus amigo. Hey, Samus, come here.
The thing about it is, like, it can be content for a bunch of different games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Right,
We-
and,
we
and,
saw,
and
like,
again,
a-
that is better than.
like buying a
But
DLC.
I
for
don't know though,
$10
like,
one.
I don't know though, like, if you want to in Breath of the Wild, if you want Epona, you have to buy a specific amiibo. And
Yeah, you have to
sure,
buy
that'll
the
work
Epona
to
amiibo.
limited extent in other games, but it won't be the
Right.
same
But like,
thing.
I
So,
bought this.
so if you really
Samus
want
amiibo.
Epona, then you need to buy that specific content.
Mhm.
Whether or not it comes with a figurine is kind of a different story, but you know what I mean. So
Like,
there is
I
a little
feel
bit
like
of it still though. Like it's better
no matter
value.
what way you. Mhm.
I still, yeah, I would agree that it's better value than most. Well, I don't know. It's very better value than a lot of minor DLC for games, right?
Right.
Larger pieces of DLC might, whatever, but like in the $5 range, the $5 to $10 range, it seems pretty good, and that's about what amiibos cost anyway. So
Yeah.
when they're not
Unless
super
you're an eater
scarce.
scalper. Yeah.
But they've been doing things like actively reprinting amiibos and stuff, so it's like
Mhm.
this is also like a very minor story, but there is through a very simple console command you can play Evil Within 2 in first person mode. And this is kind of like not a big deal, but I think that it's such a kind of cool thing that I wanted to bring it up.
Yeah, it's pretty damn neat. I mean,
I'll just
in the end,
put it on. There we go. So it actually like it's runs surprisingly well, considering. I guess it's an Unreal 4 engine game, right? So it kind of does make sense that it wouldn't be.
Yeah, it's already rendered. Everything's already in the engine. You just all it does is change the position of the camera.
Right, and there are minor things like there's some clipping and some things don't line up perfectly, but if you want to play one of these games like in first person, like a lot of or like the latest Resident Evil was only first person. Like if you want that experience to a different extent with Evil Within, like it's available through a pretty easy console command. So I think that's pretty cool, and that's just a minor thing, but I thought it was cool enough to bring up.
Yeah. It's not even like a mod. It's just like, oh yeah, just
it's not even like people
person.
how to inject code or anything. It's like just a very minor thing, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
So this is kind of interesting. A new Sony publishing label called Sony Music Entertainment, which is kind of a weird thing, is publishing games on Nintendo Switch and PC now, or they plan to. They're starting with a game called Tiny Arms, which is not a music game, which is why I find the name Sony Music Entertainment kind of interesting. But it's basically a Advance Wars kind of style game. Put that on the screen a little bit too. So it's kind of interesting that Sony and Nintendo would be cool with this. You know what I mean? It seems a little weird that
Sony seems to have been making strides in multi-platform. Like even at the beginning it was just kind of taking multi-platform from PC, and that was because they realized that the PC market with their like free-to-play games were great. But
well, it was probably also cheaper to not include the or to include the PC rather than not include the PC, right? Because it's
Mhm.
you have to pay for exclusivity a lot of the times, and it's a lot probably cheaper to main like say we don't want Xbox because they're really competing against the Xbox, right? And actually
Right.
now at this point, Sony is saying they're competing against the PC primarily. They don't even consider Xbox a threat currently. Just,
Fuck
Fair
'em up,
enough.
Sony.
yeah,
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
like
but I don't know. It's like it's really interesting that they would go with the Switch, which
yeah, even like competing companies are like, okay, the stuff that the Switch has is very interesting. The thing that it has going for it, I can see selling our product, so we want it on the Switch. Even Sony's saying that, who basically for the past 20 years has been a direct competitor to Nintendo.
yeah. So I don't know. In a way though, I think Sony really kind of does view Nintendo almost probably even more than before as like a sister console to their own console.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't mind the idea of
They've never had a problem ripping them off before, so now they don't need to rip them off.
yeah. So I don't know. Like it probably does not bother them.
To be putting
Oops, Flux turned on.
content on.
Yeah, it probably doesn't bother them that much to because I think they view it as primarily a handheld console, whether or not it is up to for
They're
people's
probably not
own debate or whatever.
They're not viewing it as something that is competing with the PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 5 in the future, depending on how soon that comes out. They're viewing it as something, people are probably going to buy both of these. This isn't going to impact our sales. I mean, it might a little bit if somebody had to choose one.
Well, yeah, they think that what they're thinking is if you want the big budget titles, especially story-based ones that Sony puts out, you're going to get the Sony console, and if you want handheld, slightly weaker, even if it is a multi-platform game, potentially slower running or weaker versions of the same game.
Yeah, as long as
again potentially because it depends on flash memory and all, like whatever. But I don't know.
And I think we talked about this a little bit last week, but the Switch has something going for it that nothing else does. Like, even if it runs slower or worse, people might be willing to buy a game a second time,
right?
Just so that they can take it with them. Which I think we actually talked a lot about last week, so I won't really go into that. But like, Skyrim, Stardew Valley. Last week we said Sonic Mania.
So
it's on other consoles, but
right. So I think that again, Sony just doesn't see them as a direct threat, and if they can sell copies of this Advanced Wars, I don't know, clone. I don't know much about the game, so forgive me if I'm being productive, but like if they can get sales on their own marketplace and on PC and Switch, like that's only going to grow their market. That's not going to hurt
that's just
anyway.
going to help them.
Yeah.
So and they feel like they're so far in the lead that right now they can afford to be nice to Nintendo, right? So it's kind of Xbox that they have like this feud with.
Yeah, it always has been, because Xbox and Sony.
Sony and Nintendo were direct competitors too for a long time.
Yeah, and I mean not always, but for the last little while it has been.
Last decade.
Because Sony and Xbox, I don't say Sony and Microsoft, because Microsoft is a little different, but Sony's PlayStation and Xbox have both been competing to see, like, just how powerful can we get our consoles? Can we get the next generation of video gaming onto our consoles? Whereas Nintendo has been, okay, well, let's try motion controls. All right, let's try, you have 2 screens here. And now let's try a game that can run on your PC, but you can also grab it and take it on the go. Yeah. It's just Nintendo's doing different stuff, and Xbox and Sony are doing the same thing with their consoles.
So they have to actually aggressively say, no, don't buy their thing that does this, buy our thing that does this. Whereas Nintendo, it's like they've always done slightly underpowered stuff that did different stuff. So it was a different value proposition the whole time.
I think a couple of years ago, people were even freaking out that like Sony and Nintendo were just like the accounts, the Twitter accounts were like having a conversation, and they were like, "Yeah, really, in the end, you should probably just buy both."
Mm-hmm.
People were like, "Holy shit!"
So we have
Sony and Nintendo.
We have a couple of big
They're
topics.
married now.
There's a couple of big topics, so I don't know how long these are gonna take. But before we get to those, just kind of a side note. I don't know how much we want to talk about this, but EA closed Visceral Studios, which is the developer of Dead Space and 2 and 3. Dead Space 1 through 3. The last few years, they've kind of been shuffled to help with Battlefield Hardline. So they did some of the development for Hardline, but again, that was spearheaded by DICE, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, they've kind of been in decline for a while, and now they're actually closed. So, I don't know. Like, I have sort of mixed feelings about this, right? Because on one hand, it sucks that EA basically fired a bunch of people, right? But
yeah,
because EA doesn't see the value in what they made, right? They didn't see the value in Dead Space. But at the same time,
EA's fault. Dead Space 3 was dog shit because specifically of the stuff that EA wanted incorporated in it.
Yeah,
and
so
for no other reason.
Well,
another one goes into the EA mass grave of fucking devs.
Well, it's like
rest in goddamn peace.
EA took a primarily single player game and made it multiplayer for Dead Space 3. They put microtransactions in a single player game, which now other companies like Warner Brothers are getting kind of hammered over the same kind of practices. Almost worse though in Warner Brothers' case because of the at least in Dead Space 3 you would buy specific things, whereas this you're buying chances for random crap, so it's a little bit I don't know, even worse
now.
I don't know. But I don't know, like on the other hand, EA wasn't going to do anything effective with Visceral anyway, right? They were going to continue to shuffle them off on as side people on other projects anyway, so maybe actually getting fired might allow some people, some of the like talent in that studio to go somewhere
free
else
from their fucking shackle.
I mean, you know, it's never like, and I don't want to sit here and say I'm glad they got fired because now they can do something better with their lives, but it's like this might open the door for some of the previous Visceral people to maybe work with another company that might be more interested in a horror game or something on their platform. Maybe Sony or Nintendo or Microsoft. Well, yeah, Microsoft might pick them up. Maybe a different competitor like even Ubisoft might be interested because they don't really have a horror game in their genre. I don't think. So I don't know. It feels like horror is on the upswing right now. Both in movies and in video games, so maybe
agreed.
Maybe something will happen with that.
Yeah.
And either way, Visceral Games, they did really good games. Like the Dead Space series was a good series of games, so
up until the third one.
Right. And even that had its moments, I think, from what I've seen of it. I've never played it, but I heard that one of the interesting things that they did with the cooperative play is one character would say some things that other characters wouldn't. They would have sort of asymmetry going in a lot of the ways that Fear 3 did, but
Fear 3's co-op was great. Say what you want about the game. I really love the co-op.
Yeah, I thought so too, but it a lot of people complained that it felt shoehorned in, and I feel like a lot of that might come down to the people who play horror games might not be the same people who play cooperative games, so maybe it was just the kind of backlash against Fear 3 and Dead Space 3 for including co-op might have just been that the audience weren't the same audience that wanted it.
I
don't know.
I mean, personally, I feel like a game is always going to be more fun when you play it with a friend. Always.
Well, in an atmospheric horror game, someone might disagree with you.
Right.
Kind of what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's two major things. I guess we'll talk about this one first because I know kind of less about it, and a lot of it's speculative.
Oh boy.
But
Oh boy, here we go.
yeah, so NeoGaf has gone down. And it says down for maintenance, but right now,
it's probably down
oops.
for indefinitely.
Nah.
Down until somebody else buys it, basically.
Well, not necessarily. They might just be having staffing problems. So
they're
NeoGaf,
certainly having staffing problems.
so the founder of NeoGaf has been accused of sexual assault by a filmmaker who says that the owner of, or the founder of NeoGaf, Tyler Malka, when on a business trip with her, after drinking heavily the night before, walked in on her shower and started trying to shower with her while she while she was on a business trip that he paid for and brought her along with him. And the reason that they were on that business trip was to help promote her films and that sort of thing.
So it's not like they were on some sort of romantic getaway.
Right. This was purely a business trip. This was a position where the founder of NeoGaf was in a position to help her because he had contacts. So he brought her on this business trip so that he could help her basically sell her film to people that he was in contact with. At least that's what she was told in the situation. What his actual intentions are, who knows? He might have been trying to butter her up or something, for some kind of sexual favors or something. Again, a lot of this is speculative, and I don't want to put intentions in people's mouths, but that is what it kind of seems like.
Those are the allegations.
Right.
Yeah. That's what people are saying.
And after those
because of
allegations,
that, but whether or not you believe in those allegations, yeah, like what has kind of come in that is more than half of the, or about half of the staff's moderators stepped down collectively all at once.
Yeah, they were like, we don't want to be involved in this.
Yeah.
It's good shit we got going, but this is not the thing.
And actually, this is kind of like in a very, very similar situation to the Harvey Weinstein thing. It seems like that a lot of people kind of knew about this, but felt like either they didn't have the power to stop it, or they
felt like their job would be in jeopardy if they tried.
Right. So a lot of them kind of knew that he was like this, but sort of looked the other way because he was in a position of power over them too.
They had something good going for them, and they didn't want to ruin it for themselves.
But it looks like in a kind of a collective protest even within, like half of the moderators collectively stepped down. And some of them released statements saying basically that they didn't want to continue looking the other way for a person that they knew to be a problem. So, and to be clear, while this is more a sexual harassment thing, this isn't like a rape thing. He isn't being accused of raping her. He is being accused of walking in naked when she was showering.
And it definitely did seem like he was trying to initiate sex with her.
And so, like, it's gross, but it's not like he was physically assaulting her too. So, I mean,
in his defense, she pushed him away, he stopped. But that's still not like
that's okay. That's not okay.
Like without the right signals, that's not something that's okay to do.
And like she had a boyfriend. There was no talk about this. There was no intention to do any of this. Like this was a business trip, and it just seems like, I don't know. It's gross that he would kind of go there.
Exactly.
So I don't really know what else there is to say about this, but I think part of why this is happening now is because of the Harvey Weinstein thing. That one of the things that kind of initiated this is she came forward with her experience, because initially she didn't she didn't name names initially, but there was this Facebook campaign, hashtag campaign about coming forward of sexual abuse on Facebook. So because she saw this, she decided to come forward with some statements, and then I don't know how it got from A to B, but at some point she revealed who she was talking about.
Well, surely somebody would have known that she went on a business trip with this guy. And
I mean,
she
potentially.
gave enough specifics that
I mean, if you
were an internet
knew,
detective, you could have figured it out.
Well, I mean,
I bet
not
her
even
boyfriend knew.
Not even if you're an internet detective or whatever, but if you are someone who works at NeoGAF, you might know exactly who she is and what she's referring to, and know who she's talking about. So,
you might have gone into the NeoGAF head office, thought that the co-ed showers were kind of weird. Noticed that the only person in them was the company head, just sitting there naked, like raising his eyebrows at you. So you're new. You wanna come in here?
And I don't want, and even though we're using humor, we're not trivializing.
Absolutely not.
This is a terrible
This is fucked
thing.
up. Honestly, straight up.
So, anyway, I don't know.
In the end, it just makes him an asshole, and I'm glad that most of his staff stepped down.
Well, I'm glad that people are coming forward with this kind of things, or these kind of things, because this only helps the industry to remove a lot of this bullshit from it.
Remember,
and this is talk that goes for Hollywood, and that goes for video games.
Okay. Big ass minefield that I don't even know. I probably already stepped on a landmine just by saying big ass minefield. But a couple years ago, they had this big old Gamergate thing, and it got
there's the minefield.
And the very
there it is.
very start inception. I don't care where it went. I don't know where it went. I kind of stopped following it after a little while, but the very point of inception of this Gamergate thing was about a dude having sex with a woman who developed a video game in exchange for a good review. That was the inception of it. That was it. And
not good review, but good, but positive coverage.
Positive, coverage.
And mentions and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
so. Of course, like, I think it was Polygon was like the first website to say, okay, you guys are right. Journalistic integrity is important, and we're reviewing our
ethical
standards.
Guidelines. Yeah, I think it was Polygon was one of the first to
and then like the rest of the gaming news websites were like, everyone in this is sexist. It got to the point where the FBI got involved and investigated the Gamergater side.
Yeah. I think that
in the end, like it's just like over time, as this Gamergate thing has died out, all of the people who were like being like against it have been just not every single person, obviously, but a lot of the people, like NeoGAF was one of the things, like, you have to respect women. You can't just Gamergate is a sexist movement and like this guy is a sexual assaulter.
Yeah. So like, and it's the same thing in Hollywood. Like a lot of what's happening, and I don't want to get into the politics too much, but a lot of what people are talking about in regards to the Harvey Weinstein thing is that a lot of like these people who were involved with Harvey Weinstein are the kind of people who constantly talk about feminism or gun rights or these different things and kind of morally policing people, while behind the scenes are doing things like
letting this happen or doing it themselves sometimes.
So, I don't know. Like there is hypocrisy in it too, but I think, I don't know, with NeoGAF, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about it, because it's like, I personally do not use NeoGAF, but it is an influential place, and I think a lot of good does come out of it, because it is one of the major places that people leak information about things that are screwed up. Like, but at the same time, if you're founded by someone who is a sexual predator to some extent, then like that is a problem. So I don't think this is as devastating for NeoGAF as as the Harvey Weinstein is for the Harvey Weinstein Company.
Yeah.
Or the Weinstein Company, rather. But, like, maybe NeoGAF could be sold to someone and the founder steps down. Maybe it does close and then something comes up in its place. But I don't think that, I don't know. NeoGAF will survive in some form or another because it serves a very unique purpose in the gaming industry.
You guys ready for the step up of the Game Facts forums? Let's go.
Man, here we go.
Game Facts, the newest video gaming site in the history.
Steam forums.
Here we go.
Screw Attack finally has its day.
This was from a while ago, but Flashton was reaffirming how he's bought the same game on 3 different platforms.
Yeah.
Stardew, Thumper, and Shovel Knight.
Yeah.
Which all have their own, like...
I did buy Shovel Knight twice. Stardew Valley I might buy again, but I don't take my Switch. I'm probably going to buy
Stardew again. I just haven't yet.
Once I need a case for my Nintendo Switch. I carry my backpack to work, but I don't want to just stick the Switch in my backpack flopping around there.
I don't go enough places to really warrant bringing my Switch places. Although it was really cool when I went to when I flew out to Dalson's place and had it there, but
yeah, because you could just take my Switch out of the dock and stick yours in it and be like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, anytime he was busy, I could just sit down and play some Zelda. Okay, that was heavy, but we're gonna move on to something that is also gross, but for a different reason.
Oh boy.
What is it?
I'm typing it in the thing.
Okay.
The Activision microtransactions. So something that just came out was Activision was approved for a patent that allows them to have intellectual rights on the idea of matching people up based on the microtransactions that they have. So some of the examples in this patent is things like matching someone up with a specific item, or in this example, a gun, that is effective against you as the player. So after you get killed by that, they might recommend that you buy that gun. Then when you buy that gun, they intentionally matchmake you with other people who would be weak against that gun, or that gun would be especially effective. Maybe, I don't know, off the top of my head, like someone who dies a lot to sniper rifles. Like they could put you in a game with other people who die a lot to sniper rifles when you buy this sniper rifle. Therefore increasing your enjoyment of buying that gun, right? So basically it's using the data that it collects from the gameplay and using that information against you in order to not only sell you more items, but make you feel better about your purchases afterward. Yeah.
What makes this feel really sleazy? Like, I know better than to just buy shit that it recommends me to buy. I know better than that. But somebody who is similar to me, like you guys have played video games with me for fucking 10 years now. You know that I will get killed by some crazy stupid gun over and over and over again, and I'll start to get mad about it, and I'll say, this gun is so fucking strong. If I had that gun, I would be doing the same thing. I'd be killing absolutely everybody. The gun that they are using is ridiculous. And then if I didn't know better than to buy it, I would go and buy it, and then I would get matched with people who also rage at that gun like me. I'd be getting a lot of kills, and I'd be like, see? I told you, this gun is fucking stupid and it needs a nerf.
I think that
all they're trying to do is sell it.
I think that part of this is like this already happens to some extent in games that have microtransactions. But I guess the idea that it could be very intentional has never come up before. But I know that, for instance, my brother plays this game called Warface, which is a free-to-play first-person shooter, and there are times where a specific gun is kind of collectively agreed on to be like overpowered or very high powered. I don't know exactly how the unlock system works in that game, but I think that for the most part you do buy weapons, like you rent them, whatever.
Yeah.
So this happens to some extent with just the basic balance of the game. Some things are just tuned higher, right? And this could be accidental. But in this situation, like, it would behoove them to make imbalances in weapons and in the end hurt the game by making the game more unbalanced unless you spend money.
Yeah.
So from both so like it doesn't matter kind of which angle you look at it from. If you want to talk about the effects on the actual game, this could have negative effects. If you want to look at the I don't know, kind of like emotional argument that games shouldn't be spent like trying to take more and more money from you, like, both are valid arguments, sure, but like no matter which way you come at it from, this is only something that hurts.
Yeah. Whereas, like, take as an example League of Legends, when they were coming out with a hero every 2 weeks, people were saying they make these heroes intentionally overpowered so that you will buy them. I never believed that. I never believed that they intentionally made them overpowered, because to this day they still come out with heroes that are just shitty when they first come out. Why would they do that if all they wanted you to do was spend money to get the new character?
Right. And this happens in other games like Smite too. Like, so this happens all over the place.
From the other side, like, I can't even think of an example, but there are games where, like, okay, they came out with this new cool thing, but it's obviously not overpowered. Like, yes, you have to spend money to get it, but you can also, like, say, I don't even want to use Warframe as an example because you can unlock all the shit, but say they come out with a new Prime version of a Warframe. Like, all that is, like, yes, you can spend a bunch of money to get that right away, but all that is it's not even like a balance difference. It's like just gonna have a different ability to this one you already have.
You know where I feel like this gets especially insidious is when, if you change the example away from a first-person shooter and over to something like a MOBA, where characters have direct counters, then could you imagine it saying, hey, buy this character, and then you buy it, and then it intentionally matches you with people who are who that character's counters to? Like, that is just like, that feels disgusting.
Yeah. Like, if there's a character entirely based on healing, then they come out with a character that cuts healing in half. And they would obviously start matching you with characters that heal a lot.
So I feel like while it's not good in shooters, it's like especially bad in games that are supposed to be balanced like asymmetrically. So, jeez. Yeah, I don't even know what else to say about that. Jeez, that's gross.
Activision, why the fuck?
In Activision's statement about this, they have said that they have not actually implemented this into any of their games.
Yeah.
You can decide whether or not you believe them.
Whatever you want.
Yeah, you can, and honestly, this patent means nothing because people could have already been doing this. This is something that could have already happened, and is happening now. And I feel like would be relatively difficult to prove, right? Other than you just kind of saying, like, matchmaking sucks because it keeps putting me against things, or people who kills me. But they could even, I don't know, they could even, like, use this as a form of balance against people who are on winning streaks, right? Like, you could do that too. I just, the way that you could manipulate this just feels slimy. And there's no real way to know whether or not it's happening, it has happened, it's going to happen, or if it is currently happening in a game you are playing right now. Like, the only way that you could know that it's not happening is in a situation where you aren't unlocking characters for real money. So, like something like Overwatch, right? I don't know.
And either way, it's shitty. Like, no matter what way you slice it, you should be matched against other people based on your skill level. That is what matchmaking should do. Period. No other reason. Not based on the number of things you have, not based on this or that or the other thing. You should be at an equal skill level. And obviously,
unless those things are indicators of skill, but
right.
Yeah.
Obviously, skill level is difficult to match
or
against.
time, I guess.
Yeah.
Because time also correlates, but
yeah.
But like,
yeah, the primary goal of matchmaking,
factor.
Yeah, the primary goal of matchmaking should always be put you into games that are a challenge for you.
Right. The goal. Yeah.
It should not be. The goal should not be to make people money. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the only real way to like avoid it is to not play games where you unlock characters with real money. But that's a lot of MOBAs. That's even Blizzard games. Like, people want to defend Overwatch all they want, but like in Heroes of the Storm, you can definitely spend money on characters.
Yeah.
I don't know. I hope that it doesn't turn out this way, but like I feel like certain companies have done a good job of making their microtransactions not affect the game directly. And anytime, like, I feel like the more they directly affect the game, the more people don't like them. That's not to say that they never make money, but I feel like a lot of times they make more money if they're fair and have a longer lifespan. They have a longer lifespan if they're fair. I don't know.
Cosmetic microtransactions are like proven to make more money than
and
power.
even not just,
it's hard to say. Hard to say.
Well, and not I would say not even like
I think the jury's out. I think the jury's still out on that one.
Well, I wouldn't say make more money. I would say like give the game like a sort of longer lifespan, because you look at TF2, it just got a new update and there's a lot of people playing it. It's still alive, you know.
Like,
yeah, I think part of the problem with TF2 though is they kind of, they're sort of the origin of this loot box thing, but that's kind of a different argument.
Yeah.
If you're against loot boxes because it's like gambling, then TF2 is kind of the origin of that, right?
Yeah.
Keys have always been that. But I don't know. That's kind of a different argument. I tend not to subscribe to the idea that loot boxes are inherently gambling, but I can see how people would feel that way.
Oh yeah.
I think that's it for the gaming news. That's all I have here.
Okay. There are like a couple of things to talk about in movies. There's very little. First off, David Fincher was on the horn for directing Force Awakens, and he didn't want to have to deal with that shit. Same, to be honest. I wouldn't want that shit either. Especially because like what David Fincher does is, like, we talked about with a lot with the World War Z stuff. It's weird that David Fincher is directing the next World War Z movie, because this isn't something that he really does.
Right.
He doesn't really go into doing sequels, and he's like going in and doing the sequel, and it's I don't know. And
So-
it's like, I wouldn't expect him to want to do a Star Wars movie.
I feel like a lot of people have their strengths and weaknesses, right?
Yeah.
Or their desires. I don't know.
Yeah.
This could be like based on money. Maybe he was like, well, Disney is giving me a big paycheck, so I'll at least try. I don't know.
Yeah.
And certainly they paid him for the time that he was there, even if because he left, maybe he doesn't get chunks of royalties. I don't know.
Well,
But-
he wasn't ever like actually directing it. He was just
he was
like
just on the
like
on
he
the
was
docket
offered,
for
and
it.
he was like, no, I'm not gonna do that.
Which
Yeah,
one
that's
is the new
oh,
one?
yeah.
The Force Awakens? No, that one's the Last Jedi.
That's all. Yeah,
Which
yeah.
one is Force
Last-
Awakens?
The Force Awakens is the one before it. Force Awakens was Poe, fucking, yeah. Just all it's the new cast movie, the Star Wars, the new Star Wars.
Right.
Yeah. The next one is, and this is like the only piece of news I swear to God happened all goddamn week. Hollywood is taking movies that aren't doing a super good like in the box office out of theaters really quick, which is kind of unfortunate. Like for instance, Blade Runner 2049, which everyone in this panel who's seen it has said it's a fucking amazing 10 out of 10 movie you should see. They're pulling it out of like 800 theaters because it's not doing like super well financially. There's also a Tom Cruise movie that they're pulling out. I mean, I guess this is like okay, they're
that movie was a flop.
Yeah, apparently.
I didn't know it. I know what it was called. What was it? I gave up. It was like Money something.
American Made,
right?
Yeah.
I almost saw that this weekend, but I was like, I don't feel like getting out.
And now it's being pulled out of theaters. Thanks, Saine. It's all your fault.
Yeah, but I don't really like Tom Cruise anyway.
It doesn't make any sense.
Hmm?
If it does bad in the box office in the opening week, but everybody says it's really good, then leaving it in theaters would make sense because it would do better.
They do have to pay to have it screened places though.
Yeah.
So while there is some traction on word of mouth, if it's still not picking up after the second or third week, it makes sense to maybe pull it.
Yeah.
Blade Runner's only been out 2 weeks now, right? Or is this the third week?
No, 2 weeks.
Yeah, so unless it just spiked all of a sudden, I don't know.
Yeah, and it's been like pretty stagnant, which
is really weird to me because they marketed this movie kind of a lot. I'm surprised.
Super hard, yeah. I don't know. I guess people were like, oh, I want to watch that new Blade Runner movie. Maybe I should watch the original. They were bored through that. It's like, oh no, I don't hope it's not more of the same of this. I don't want that. I don't know.
Yeah,
that's my thoughts on it. That might have been what happened. I would not tell you what.
See, I always thought that it was the theaters who made the decision about how long they wanted to run something.
Yeah.
Because I have a theater chain here that like any animated film, even ones of like middling quality, will stay there for months. So
well, I think it like for some films it depends, and well for some theaters it depends. Some are like at the big chain theaters that are like super in the Hollywood thing, have like running stuff that goes into all of their theaters and then comes out.
Well, the one I'm talking about is not. It's a large chain, but only regionally.
Oh, okay,
so
yeah.
it's called Harkins Theaters. They only really are in here, a little bit in Texas, and a couple places in California, but it's primarily an Arizona company. But here it is huge. They are huge companies, and they kick the ass out of AMC. Like,
wow,
in terms of like box office sales. So like, it's kind of crazy.
And that's like and AMC is like what I'm talking about. You know, AMC, Century, all of those guys. The big theaters are, and that's probably a lot less tied into the big Hollywood thing. Sort of like how Alamo Drafthouse isn't.
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe it's a little bit of both. Maybe some that they kind of have to. I don't know.
Yeah.
The other one on this list is Flatliners, which
which was apparently god awful.
It has a 6 on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah. Holy shit. That's bad.
There are a lot of movies competing for lowest this year between Emoji Movie and Flatliners, and Geostorm is also pretty bad.
There are a lot of video games competing for the best this year.
A lot of movies competing for the best this year too. A lot of stuff that like I sort of didn't like. I sort of like am surprised. Like for instance, a comic book movie is in like my top 10 of this year, really close to number 1, probably number 2 behind the Blade Runner. Logan.
Oh yeah,
and also Wonder Woman was really good too.
Yeah, and Guardians of the Galaxy. Like all the comic book movies came out this year so far, while Justice League's still to come. I've been really, really good.
Yeah, actually coming out of that, this is just a side tangent. This is just something that suddenly I remembered, but I read this thing about how Warner Brothers, because of how successful Wonder Woman was, they plan that after Justice League, they're going to kind of break up their cinematic universe, and they're still going to have like loose continuity, but it's going to be much less focused on having an ensemble cast. It's going to be more about individual stories.
Good.
So it's like, man, it certainly took Warner Brothers a long time to learn that lesson.
Maybe we should stop hiring. Hold on. Maybe we should stop hiring that fucking Schneider asshole. Yeah, but he's in all the shit. He is in all the shit.
So, like, I feel like...
Fuck, I don't know.
I feel like they look at Marvel and go, wow, Marvel has this huge cinematic universe and people are in it for the long haul because their universe is all super connected. But that's like the opposite. It's actually the opposite that's kind of true. Marvel came out with a number of really strong solo movies that were loosely connected at the end. And then that led into things that were more connected.
The Avengers
and actually, once it started getting to the point where a lot of the stories seem to serve only the purpose of leading into other stories, that's when Marvel started receiving some criticism.
Yeah.
And it's only now that Marvel's starting to turn around on it again and kind of pull that back a little bit. That's why Thor Ragnarok looks like it's going to be good, and the Guardians of the Galaxy movies have been good, because even though the Guardians of the Galaxy movies are connected to this Thanos thing, it seems
they're
like
still really, really like far apart from like almost everything.
Yeah,
they don't even feel like Marvel movies.
Right, they're like principally about what they're about, and the other trappings of the Marvel stuff is like loose connections. It's like, yes, the Collector has the
like Howard the Duck.
Infinity Stone, and these Infinity Stones exist, and all
and
this stuff.
Howard the Duck.
And Howard the Duck. But at its core, the second movie was about Peter Quill's relationship with his father.
Yeah.
And that's what the movie was about.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, like, I feel like if it took Warner Brothers this long to learn that lesson, and it took a super highly successful film
like
that was that they thought was not going to be very good, like, I don't know, man.
If you contrast that with Captain America Civil War, it was basically an Avengers movie. It was not about Captain America.
Yeah.
I mean, it was sort of about Captain America, but like,
I would say like the crux of the movie and in the end more had to do with Iron Man.
Yeah. It was based on the Civil War comic book. Like, why?
No, I feel like
billed as Captain America.
I feel like it was still a Captain. I mean, what it was Captain America versus Iron Man. That's what the movie was. But instead of naming that, they said Civil War because it was kind of about two opposing sides. So I feel like that it was fair. But I still feel like it was a Captain America movie because it followed Captain America more than Iron Man, for sure.
But when you compare it to something like Guardians of the Galaxy, Peter Quill, like, it's Guardians of the Galaxy, and it's about him, like you said, it's about his relationship with his dad. And whereas it's like Captain America Civil War was not about, it was about Captain America and Tony Stark disagreeing. It was not about like his relationship with Bucky or anything.
No, it was Captain America Civil War was about his relationship with Iron Man. I think that, okay, so here's the difference though, I think. Like, Avengers, right? Was not a movie about specific characters. It was a team movie, an ensemble cast against a greater threat, and they had to work together for the greater good or whatever. But you knew who all of these characters were because they were in their own stories.
Except for Natasha and Hawkeye.
Well, they were to some extent. No, Hawkeye was in they didn't have their own stories, but Hawkeye was in Thor.
Okay, yeah.
So they were introduced sooner, but I guess I don't know. It wasn't. They were in it, I guess.
Right.
But,
I still see your point.
Yeah, but each of them had their own movies, and even following Avengers 1, we still had other great stories that were principally about that character. We had Iron Man 2, as much as people don't like it, it was very much about how he was reacting to what he saw in Avengers 1. Or was it Iron Man 3?
I think that was Iron Man 3, actually.
Okay, that's...
Iron Man 2 was about Russia Man inventing an electric.
Yeah, but I don't remember what the subtext of what was happening was. But anyway, and then Captain America 2, Winter Soldier, was about his relationship with Bucky Barnes, and it was a spy movie plot that had a lot to do with S.H.I.E.L.D. So even though, like, I think what makes those movies stronger when you compare them to DC movies is, like, the cinematic universe feels like a complement to good stories, where in DC's case, it seems like the cinematic universe is the point.
Yeah.
Where it's the reverse. It's reverse on the... Yeah, it's reverse on the Marvel movies. It's not the point, but it is something that complements it. So...
Right, this is all happening in the same universe at the same time. Things happen with this, but the story is very much about X character and stuff.
And I think,
still feel like Civil War should not have been billed as a Captain America movie, but we might just have to agree to disagree on that one.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it was fine. But, and really, like, even the comic book, like, Civil War, was almost more about Captain America than Tony Stark in a lot of ways. Well, I don't know. I guess it was, like, the comic book was pretty even.
Going on. Yeah.
Well, I mean, there were, if you consider all the side stories, but the mainline Civil War books, the ones that were titled Civil War, were basically about Captain America and Iron Man almost exclusively. And there were other characters who were in it, but it was about those two characters. And in the same way, I feel like, I guess in my perspective, you're just getting hung up on the naming. Because I feel like Captain America Civil War could have easily been Captain America versus Iron Man Civil War.
Yeah.
It could have also just been Iron Man Civil War.
It could have. But I think in this case, it focused on Captain America and Bucky more than it did on Iron Man.
Tony Stark as much. Yeah,
true.
Just by a little bit, but enough that I think that it's fair to say it was about Captain America.
There were a significant portions of scenes where characters that in a purely Captain America based story would not have even been related to Captain America at all.
What do you mean?
Were in it, were like the focus of it. Like, I'm pretty sure Civil War was the movie that set up the relationship between Scarlet Witch and Vision. Like, what the fuck does that have to do with Captain America? Absolutely nothing at all.
That's like a subplot, though. Like, that
actually does bring up a very good point.
But it has nothing to do with Captain America in the slightest.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
no relation whatsoever.
Well, no, because Captain America is friends with Scarlet Witch, and Vision is on his team. Like, and Black Panther was in it, but Black Panther also was on his team. Like,
well, here's the thing: Black Panther did actually like actively affect the story. I do feel like the Vision and Scarlet Witch thing was a little bit more of like an Iron Man thing because he was the one who would lock them in his tower. Like a fucking princess with a dragon. Again, now that I think about it,
and that was kind of like a subplot thing that had to do with Scarlet Witch initiating the story. Because she blew up on people. So, like, I mean, I feel like you could have easily called Civil War Avengers Civil War too.
Yeah.
Although I feel like that might have even applied that it should have been even more grander than it was. Maybe.
Or just Marvel's Civil War. It was based on a comic book.
That would be confusing.
Why?
Yeah.
Because the comic book exists, and there are already a million things out of the comic book. It's just easier.
Yeah.
It's just easier to call it Captain America Civil War.
And not only that, but the Marvel Civil War event was like this huge, multiple different comic book things that like affected all of the different shit.
And in comics, there's been 2 Civil Wars.
Yeah.
Marvel Civil War 2 is about Inhumans, and that actually came out around the same time as Captain America Civil War. So sort of like, it wasn't a tie-in because they weren't about the same events, but it
Well,
was
they were a
sort of
tie-in in like the marketing money sort of sense.
yeah, it was a tie-in in the sense that they had the same name, but it was
Yeah.
Civil War II, where it was about Tony Stark versus what's the fuck is
But Civil War
the chick
had
who's
the
Polaris? Miss Marvel.
Fuck, I don't know. Yeah, that's right.
Miss Marvel versus Tony Stark, where
But
Tony
Civil
Stark
War,
was
the
kind of the
movie
good guy this time.
It had the same themes though.
No, it didn't.
It didn't?
No.
Yeah.
Captain
No,
America or
Captain
Civil
America
War
was
2.
against... No, then Civil War 1. It had
Oh,
the same
well, it had the same
Yeah.
themes.
Yeah.
To an extent, but even that they changed a little bit.
Like,
But
Captain America said, no, we shouldn't register, and Tony Stark was like, yeah, that's a great idea, and then Spider-Man was in it, and that was pretty much all of Civil War.
Spider-Man was in it.
Was Spider-Man was
Yeah, I mean, that was what Civil War was, right?
Tony Stark
was
was pro-registration.
Okay, it was a little bit more complex than Spider-Man was in it. Like, Spider-Man played a major role in the original Civil War.
You know, there's a
whereas
problem
in the
that
movie
I have...
he shows up and
Yeah,
is in a fight. Like, that's not...
Here's the problem I have with like the original.
He also gets
Civil
his
War.
ass beat in that movie in ways that shouldn't be possible for Spider-Man.
But yeah, here's the problem I have with the
in
original
the comic
Civil
book,
War,
he
like,
doesn't lose to
yeah,
Captain America.
in the comic books. In the comic books, there's like specifically a line right before like Peter Parker is about to like show off who he is, where it's just like, wait a second, Tony, haven't you like told everyone that you're Iron Man? Yeah, but I fucking erased everyone's memory like 8 goddamn times, so none of this even matters. It's like we can just fucking remove people's memory with satellites like out of the air.
Spider-Man after the Civil War does use magic to erase everyone's memories that he's Peter Parker. But although that causes other issues later, which is actually kind of cool, but I think that the way they went about Peter Parker having his memory erased for other people is super cool.
Yeah. But yeah, what I wanted to see was Vision and Scarlet Witch, Civil War. They just hang the fuck out. Those were like the best scenes in the movie.
There's like a side thing. There's like a side like mini series where they're just like, it's a slice of life where they're just hanging out at home.
Yeah. Just Wanda showing Vision like all these fucking like TV shows that I like. Vision, very good show. Game of Thrones. I never see it until I move here and stop being mad at Captain America. Tell me what it's about. Dragons and stuff.
Let me show you what I can do.
I can also breathe fire. Don't. Oh no! Yeah, just me. Let me show you what I can do. Ooh. What are you doing? I'm wiggling my fingers very.
My hand all the way through my head because I'm Vision and I break everything.
You're going to be lots of fun at Halloween, Vision. We're going to have a fun Halloween adventure.
I actually like this version of Black Panther better than the one that was in the cartoon, and even to some extent the one in the comic, because I feel like they've depowered him a little bit.
Yeah. I know that
I feel like Black Panther I feel like both Black Panther and Vision have this problem where they both feel like walking plot holes.
Yeah, if they're there is literally no reason for them to have any adversity at all.
But I feel like in the cinematic universe, they're a little bit more grounded and not ridiculous. Like, neither of those characters are nearly as ridiculous as they were.
I feel like
Vision,
Vision,
Black Panther more so.
Black Panther is more grounded.
Yeah,
I still hate Black Panther on principle, but Vision still, I feel like, is a walking plot hole. His powers are, he is literally invincible to anything you can possibly throw at him, and he can go through walls.
Well, he's not quite that strong. He's not quite on that level, because that's the thing. In other media, Vision is like almost invulnerable, but in this, it didn't seem like he was as effective, and a lot of that has to do with, I guess, him just being new at it. But
yeah,
like, he was getting beat up a little bit. I don't know. So
yeah.
Anyway, I think that does it for the podcast this week. Is there anything else we want to touch on, or are we going to go into closing thoughts and plugs and all that fun stuff?
Okay. I think that's about it.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay, so Thel, why don't you tell us a little bit about the video?
Okay, so I just released a Neo Yokio review that took me for fucking ever to finish. That's why I haven't been talking, because I've been fighting sleep this whole time. But it's done and it's out there. I'm probably gonna take a little bit of a hiatus on videos just for a couple of weeks, because I want to get like some ideas for videos, stuff that I want to do. There's some stuff that I've been like meaning to get working on that like my videos have been kind of getting in the way of. But I'll definitely come back like within a couple of weeks. It's not gonna take me that long.
Yeah, usually Thel's rotation is about 2 weeks.
Yeah, it took me 3 weeks for this one.
Yeah,
but,
we might do because we've been planning on doing a spooky game let's play for a while, but we have been having technical issues with that.
Yeah, Discord's been kind of all over the place.
And then also, I think that we might want to start trying to do more reviews, but we'll have to figure that out some more as we go on.
It's an organic process, you know.
Is there any news for your streaming stuff this week?
Not really. I was kind of looking at a game called West of Loathing because I really enjoyed Kingdom of Loathing. It's hilarious. It's a browser-based game. It's totally free. If you haven't heard of Kingdom of Loathing, I would recommend looking it up and giving it a shot because it has like it's like some of the best humor ever in a mostly text-based RPG. And West of Loathing is pretty cheap, and it's I know it's going to be good. So I was thinking of picking up that to stream. Otherwise, it's probably just going to be more Warframe.
You told me that you changed your days off. Is that going to affect your stream schedule at all, or?
It probably won't affect my stream schedule, no. It's just Monday and Tuesday. If anything, I might just be streaming on Tuesday. But even then, I don't have plans to stream on Tuesday, so...
Okay.
You know, just subscribe to my Twitch channel and you'll know when I go live. That's the best I can tell you. But I do have a schedule posted that I'll stick to pretty regularly. Yeah. Unless emergencies come up, obviously.
Okay. Well, with that, I think we're done.
Yep.
We'll see you next week. Oh, sorry. Last week I uploaded the podcast really late. I'll make sure to get that out on time this week.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us. We'll check you guys out next time.
Yeah. And remember to stay beautiful.
Like, comment, and subscribe.
Yeah, that too.
Okay, see you later.